Chapter 61. Seeing that Magneto's attack was not enough, Storm Girl took action again as a magician. Thunder shook, and a thick bolt of lightning was like a roaring thunder dragon. This time Storm Girl took aim and struck Apocalypse directly. The stance flickers, but it has no effect at all. How dare you chop me? Apocalypse, looking at Storm, began to look cold. Not even Zeus in the past dared to use thunder and lightning on me. Apocalypse raised his head slightly as he spoke. As the oldest mutant, is it normal for him to have seen Zeus? Not to mention Zeus, even Odin's father and Apocalypse have met him. With one move of Apocalypse's arm, the thunderclouds gathered by Storm Girl dissipated directly. I am the Egyptian sun god. Apocalypse has its own holy light that almost lights up the night. Su Chen remembered that Apocalypse was also a god in ancient Egypt. It is estimated that the pyramids in Egypt also came from other people. Apocalypse, you are the sun god, will your shit shine? Su Chen, who was watching Apocalypse torture mutant, suddenly asked. Quote? Apocalypse, I just heard that your Egyptian mythology has a special preference for dung beetles, and it is said that their sun rises in the east and sets in the west every day because of the dung beetles. So your shit glows. Quote? Stupid mortal, that's not a dung beetle, that's a scarab. Apocalypse became so angry that he immediately stood up and rolled his eyes. If he shines, does that mean he is shit? Material reconstruction. The gravel around Su Chen turned into sand and headed towards Su Chen. For Magneto and others who are also mutants, as the oldest mutant, he may cherish his talent and not respond with all his strength. But in his perception, Su Chen was not, so he just went to take action. A sandbound coffin came at the beginning. Is it so exciting? Su Chen quickly retreated with Icarus and the dog. Guzi's strength is still a bit inferior to the god-level Apocalypse. As for Icarus, he has been strictly prohibited by the Ancient One magician from opening his final form without the danger of destroying the earth. The stupid thing is you, an old guy who has slept for 5,000 years. You must be very lacking in spiritual culture. You obviously have many incredible skills, but you have turned them into trivial skills. They are rubbish. Su Chen raised his little hand, and a qigong wave flew towards him. Apocalypse. Guzi, lie, woof. Thor waved Mjolnir, summoning a large number of thunderclouds. A strong wind suddenly struck, forcibly gathering the thunderclouds in the sky together, and countless rays of lightning surged among them. Thunder release Qilin. With the ability of Su Chen's click, the powerful power of the thunder and lightning was attracted by Su Chen and bombarded Apocalypse. The ability of the electric shock user is in the gun sister, that is the electromagnetic gun. In my hands, I am the new Thor. Woof, I am Thor. Thor's feeble cry. The Kirin blast by Mjolnir was so powerful that it directly blasted a gap in the pyramids. It is more powerful than Storm Girl's lightning. Regarding the ability to control the electric shock user, Su Chen is not even as good as Storm Girl, but she is still so powerful. This is thanks to the omnipotent energy blessing of the tears of the goddess. As long as it's powerful and accurate, you can give it a try. After all, Lan Duo is willful. And he has teammates, which you can't envy. Apocalypse. Do you think I'm alone? I still have my army. Apocalypse flew out of the pit and dragged his hands. Everything around him began to turn into sand. Countless sand condensed into a sphinx and even a pair of abnormally huge amounts of wings appeared. Seriously, aren't you from New Rui? I think you can look for the sun disk and see if you can ascend. Quote. The sphinx rushed directly towards Su Chen under the control of Apocalypse. A red ray was aimed at the sphinx. It had pretty good destructive power and directly destroyed the paw that the sphinx was about to shoot off. I also have a presence. Cyclops shouted. After speaking, a red light flashed, and Chin appeared in front of Su Chen in time. Then the shield formed by the Phoenix flames only lasted for a moment, and Phoenix was blown away. Phoenix Force's piano without awakening is too weak. The main reason is that the professor has no chance to create the Qinbao seed, and the Phoenix Force is still in a hidden state. Su Chen took a look and thought something was wrong. Where did Magneto go? When I looked back, I saw that Magneto was chatting with the professor and paddling frantically on the edge. Although Su Chen knew that Magneto couldn't beat Apocalypse, this was too much. People like me, who have nothing to do with themselves, are doing their best. Is it really okay for them to do this? Magneto smiled awkwardly, probably because he noticed Su Chen's gaze, and then sat down and Wolverine sent a flight machine to join the battle. Magneto has no other means of attack other than launching the newly learned Earth-pulsating magnetic field attack method. Don't rely on quality, only rely on quantity to win. But these are blocked by Apocalypse's position. It has no effect at all. As the oldest mutant, he definitely has god-level strength. In the comics, he even competed with Thanos without infinite gems. Although I didn't win, but there is no doubt that he possesses god-level power, equivalent to that of a complete 5th-level mutant. Normally Phoenix Force is a level 5 mutant. He is talking about potential. Iceman also has it. What do you think he is now? It's not that it's on the edge and Ob is useless at all. And now Apocalypse is also a little annoyed. Although the attacks of these mutants are not painful or itchy, there is a vague sense of danger when used on the edge. That little girl with wings, and that inconspicuous young man. Even the dog contained huge amounts of potential. Don't let him use the ability to teleport. Seeing that Apocalypse had no desire to fight and let him run away, it was really troublesome. With his ability to destroy a city and transform large areas of land in a few breaths, he can easily cause damage to the Earth's barrier. For his hatred of human beings, he must die. Trapped him, I'll unleash a wave of skills. Su Chen said to everyone in Mutant. Magneto Phoenix heard this and took action with all his strength. Even the professor who had been watching the battle for a long time began to exert his strength. After Apocalypse's consciousness transfer, it seemed that the professor's mental power had also improved significantly. Although he still lost to Apocalypse, he felt that he could still do it if he delayed for a while. Cyclops goes all out and cuts the building like a tofu. Apocalypse was completely hit by the ultra-high burst Cyclops. Although the Razor Eye itself is really weak, its super ability is really strong. At this moment Chin had turned into a huge amounts of flame phoenix, falling from the sky and crashing into Apocalypse. Ah! Apocalypse, who was eroded by the phoenix flames, roared in pain. Although Phoenix was still very weak, her energy quality was really high level. Even Apocalypse felt a burning pain. Fortunately, Apocalypse has strong recovery power and recovered quickly. Seeing Apocalypse being temporarily trapped, Su Chen also began to prepare for his ultimate move. Although you have godlike power and are awe-inspiring, you can't compare to human wisdom. Su Chen's eyes flashed with lightning. On the other side, the electric current wrapped around Su Chen's arm is surging crazily, creating an extremely wide magnetic field circle. Moreover, the scope of thunder and lightning is constantly expanding. 1 meter, 10 meters, 100 meters. Under the strong light, the electric python is obviously surging. Although the ability of Su Chen's electric shock user is level 1, with the support of Su Chen's powerful magic power, the power directly reaches a level beyond IV5, and even such powerful lightning power even completely surpasses Thor himself. Under the dazzling electric current, the surrounding magnetic field begins to become disordered, and the surrounding objects slowly float or even annihilate. Feeling the growing magnetic field in her hands, Su Chen seemed to feel something and smiled slightly. If it weren't for the domineering body protection and various physical increasing magics, Yinchen's arms might be useless. Then, Su Chen's body rose into the air and was suspended in midair. At the same time, he took out a coin from the system space. Sister Pow's game currency. This time it finally came in handy. Su Chen smiled slightly, showing his white teeth, and countless twisted electric currents surged through his body, swarming towards the coins in his hand. Terrible power is brewing, like the sea before a storm, slowly brewing and gathering momentum. His toes were slightly suspended on the ground, his eyes full of joy and expectation. Thor's Mjolnir is delivering a large amount of lightning power to Su Chen behind the scenes, and is also constantly blessing the coins. However, Su Chen, who failed in physics, did not have the ability to control so many lightning strikes with precision. Fortunately, Icarus enabled some functions to provide Su Chen with powerful computing power support. Relying on the computing power of humanoid robots, can't they be compared with Sister Gun? Believe it or not, Icarus pulled out her celestial computer. Huge amounts of electric current, like blue lightning, wrap around Su Chen's arms, and the coin Su Chen holds tightly seems to be grasping a world of thunder and lightning. Su Chen Zhetong's hardness will definitely not last very far, even 10 meters is a luxury. So you have to be close to Apocalypse. After approaching Apocalypse, Su Chen, suspended in front of Apocalypse, had a pair of eyes shining with blue light, looking at the ever-changing celestial phenomena, as if sighing. It may be difficult to launch such a powerful attack again. Su Chen jumped in front of Apocalypse on moon steps. Run away. Apocalypse looked at Su Chen floating in front of him and felt severe danger. He has to go, otherwise he may really be killed if he drags it on any longer. Sorry, no chance. The ground began to tremble slightly, and Apocalypse completely enveloped the area. A coin with a diameter of several centimeters in the void escapes the shackles of gravity and is suspended in the air under the control of the electromagnetic field. The coin began to rotate under the blessing of the magnetic field. The speed became faster and faster, whistling sounds sounded in the air, and huge amounts of energy were constantly accumulating in the metal ball. If Su Chen's weapon color hadn't been constantly hardening the coin, the energy contained in it would have physically annihilated him. A burning smell spread into Su Chen's nose, and Su Chen knew that the time had come. The black coins that were constantly added to the magnetic field began to emit red heat that could not be concealed in the magnetic field. Su Chen feels like she is holding a giant cannon in her hand now, an anti-star weapon. Feel the pain, Apocalypse. Boom. In the sky, the sun was shining high, and countless loud thunders rose from the ground. The thunder and lightning in Su Chen's hand exploded with astonishing momentum. And the thunder and lightning elements in the sky are constantly expanding and expanding at an incredible speed. In just the blink of an eye, it covers a radius of 1 kilometer. Later, it was gathered and absorbed into the hands of Su Chen. With a flick of Su Chen's finger, the coin came out of his palm and turned into an orange light. Electromagnetic gun. Call out. A stream of flame flashed. The ferocious huge amounts of metal cannonballs, with strong rotational force, tear the air apart and roar directly into the Apocalypse on the ground. Boom. A shocking roar sounded, and then huge waves rose from the ground. The electromagnetic gun with a short range of several meters turned into a huge amount of hongguang, like a burning small planet, directly hitting the ground, with terrifying destructive power. The earth was trembling, and the ground began to crack. Countless huge, prepared, ferocious cracks covered the already messy earth. Then, a mud-yellow sand wave more than 10 meters high was lifted up, and huge amounts of soil waves turned into a torrent of earth and rocks, carrying the terrifying power of overwhelming everything. It crushed everything around with great force. Bang, click, various sounds were heard constantly, and the torrent of mud and rocks was like a world-destroying flood, destroying everything. Whether it is the earth or the dilapidated buildings, they appear so fragile under this mighty torrent of earth and rocks, constantly being washed away and turned into one of them. Everything along the path of the mud-rock torrent was washed away, crushed, and buried. Earthy yellow smoke rose into the sky, covering the sky and the sun. The smoke and dust dispersed, and only a bottomless underground chasm was left behind the electromagnetic gun. I am New York, a troubled New York. So strong. The whole place was silent, and everyone was stunned by the scene in front of them. Some people even rubbed their eyes, wondering if they were dreaming. Just unstoppable, Apocalypse completely destroyed the mutant manor and destroyed it again. If Su Chen knew what they were thinking, he would definitely say, "Where is this?" This is thanks to the railgun's limited attack range due to material limitations. Otherwise, if Su Chen does a Qigong wave, the whole of New York will have to be renovated. This is not a power that humans can control at all. I guess only Chin and Eric can't do this kind of destructive power, right? Charles murmured to himself, and he was horrified to find that there seemed to be no one in the mutant who could restrain Su Chen. Maybe Chin can do it, but she's still too immature to do it right now. The worried Charles put aside his imagination and saw the manor that was ruined and in need of complete renovation. So let's cooperate in the future. Su Chen was perceiving the Apocalypse below with a domineering look. It seems that Apocalypse is still alive. Is Apocalypse dead? Eric turned to look at Su Chen. Not dead, but almost done. Su Chen fished Apocalypse out of the ground with half its head. To outsiders, Apocalypse's energy collapsed, leaving only half of its head, like a defective corpse. In the eyes of ordinary people, it is obvious that he cannot die anymore. But Su Chen knew that Apocalypse was just eroded by violent energy and high temperature, which temporarily suppressed Apocalypse's recovery ability. Apocalypse's resilience is even stronger than that of Wolverine. It can face nuclear bombs and survive in magma and even on the surface of the sun. So as long as his spirit remains alive, he will be difficult to kill. However, Su Chen has other ideas for the current Apocalypse. If it works, he will have another duplication with good strength. Apocalypse is now in a coma. For Magician, he basically has no magic resistance now. So Su Chen slapped half of the head. Immediately Apocalypse's soul was captured. It is obvious that Apocalypse is still in a coma, otherwise Su Chen would not have been able to photograph it so easily. Obviously Apocalypse has not slept enough after sleeping for 5,000 years. Or maybe he had plundered other people's bodies and had superpowers, so the fit between the soul and the body was not strong at all. So the question is, does mutant's ability rely on the body or the soul? Professor Zhang Jin was killed by Qin Chbe, but he was reborn in the body of his younger brother who had become a vegetative state. Mutant's ability still exists, so in the end, the mutant's soul, or spirit, must be wiped out. Isn't it easy to erase Apocalypse's consciousness? There were 2 psychic mutants present. Su Chen is also considered half. However, the current professor and Qin's abilities are still a bit inferior. Professor, Qin, come here. Apocalypse is not completely dead yet. Let me upgrade some of your abilities and we will completely erase its spirit. Su Chen knows that he has to be fast, otherwise who knows whether Apocalypse will undergo a second stage transformation. Qin and the professor who was picked up by Magneto appeared in front of Su Chen. What do we need to do? Before the professor and others could react, Su Chen made an incision on Apocalypse's head. 2 tails of blood were released. Come and take a bite each of you. Quote question mark question mark question mark question mark quote. Qin, Professor, Apocalypse can enhance the abilities of ordinary mutants, but he didn't say that his blood can also enhance abilities, which is even better than the effect of instilling it with energy. Su Chen explained to the 2 of them. I know you guys dislike it, but this thing is really useful. Although it's not difficult for me to kill him, it would be better if I keep him. Look, he is a mutant teacher who has lived for more than 5,000 years. How dare you say that you don't want the knowledge in his mind? This will be of great benefit to you in cultivating mutants. To be honest, the professor is excited. Professor Qin and Professor endured the nausea in their hearts and swallowed Apocalypse's blood. Su Chen didn't lie. Apocalypse's blood can indeed evolve mutants' abilities. The professor feels that his powers have improved significantly, and now he can perceive life around the world even without relying on a brainwave strengthening machine. In the end, with the help of Su Chen and the powerful spiritual power of the professor, Kai's consciousness was completely eradicated. The professor also got his wish and got the memory module of Apocalypse, which contains a lot of knowledge, as well as detailed knowledge on identifying mutants and how to improve them. With this knowledge, the professor believes that even if Academy City is established in the future, he will not be afraid of running out of teaching materials. The professor feels that even if the manor does not exist, he will still make a lot of money. After seeing Apocalypse's spirit and consciousness completely wiped out, then he cut off the part of Apocalypse that was eroded by energy, leaving only a blob the size of a fist file without any movement. Then he stuffed Apocalypse's soul into it again, and saw that a blob the size of a fist file was growing rapidly. In an instant, it returned to its original state of Apocalypse. But the current state seems to be almost that of a vegetative state. Nothing left behind but a body. You have also taken the knowledge, and I will take this body with me. Happy cooperation. After saying that, Su Chen opened the portal and went home directly. Eric and the professor looked at the current manor and couldn't help but recall that a few hours ago this was a paradise where birds were singing, flowers were fragrant, and grasses were flying. I didn't expect that now. Charles, it's okay, we can't start over. Eric comforted the professor. He was also sad that his good friend's family business was destroyed, but fortunately, mutants' high-end combat power was still there, so there was no big problem. Isn't it just money? I'm going to find some gold. What are you talking about? I'm thinking about how to buy this land at the most affordable price. Charles said slowly, money has never been a problem for mutant. I have bought many human banks, human media, human schools, and human politicians. Otherwise, why do you think you get so much nourishment outside? Quote question mark question mark question mark question mark quote. Eric looked confused. So what am I suffering from? I told you to come back from the beginning and you didn't listen. Do you blame me? The professor touched his bright and even cool big head with a melancholy look on his face. It's even good for you to join White Queen's Hellfire Company. Hellfire Company is a business giant that cannot be ignored. Quote. Eric suddenly felt that his life was in vain. You must know that during his most difficult time, he even chewed tree bark on a desert island overseas. Charles didn't care about this. Instead, he picked up the scraps of Apocalypse dropped by Su Chen. I thought silently in my heart, these are good treasures, they can't be wasted. I don't know how many level 5 mutants I can cultivate by making these into potions for Beast. In the days that followed, Su Chen checked in at the holy place out of boredom and studied telepathy's ability. Su Chen had signed telepathy's ability from Ancient One before, but she had never practiced it seriously, so the level was not high, so she just casually detected some ordinary people and set up some mental defenses that no one could break. Mind control is an extension or even strengthening of telepathy. When Su Chen reaches enough levels, he can directly control Apocalypse's body to fight. It's equivalent to a god-level duplication for free, so flattering. You must know that this is a combination of Su Chen's ability and energy, coupled with the super powerful computing power of Icarus, and the blessing of Guzi, which was barely destroyed. If Apocalypse is allowed to play freely, it is estimated that the Phoenix Force will have to fully explode to completely destroy Apocalypse. In fact, Phoenix Force played the biggest role in destroying Apocalypse's spirit. The days are peaceful, but the outside world is very unstable. New York City's gas pipelines leaked again, causing a big explosion. It also caused an earthquake and formed a Grand Canyon. The citizens didn't believe it, but it was broadcast like this on TV, and there were a lot of experts cleaning the floor, so they couldn't help but not believe it. Due to pressure and other reasons, Fury took Natasha Romanoff into the holy place of New York again. Hey, what a rare visitor. There is actually a beautiful woman. Su Chen saw Fury and the beautiful woman with big waves beside him. Hey, why don't you add V to the beauty? Seeing this beauty Su Chen, it was not difficult to guess that she was the famous Black Widow. The woman who is said to have sat in the entire Women's Federation. It seems that every Avenger has had hundreds of millions of tangles with her. Seeing Su Chen's enthusiasm, Natasha Romanoff was a little embarrassed. When Phil Coulson came here before, he said that Su Chen had a bad personality. He's not easy to talk to. He looks like he's going to kneel down under his pomegranate skirt. Now that the order is done, doesn't Fury have to look at his own face to act? Definitely, let's have a long chat tonight. Natasha Romanoff also took the opportunity to wink. Whatever I want, please prepare more information about your SHIELD female agents. I'll recruit a few later. Natasha Romanoff. Su Chen has no interest in old aunts like Natasha Romanoff at all. Even if she is a good agent, why can't she choose 2 young ones? Su Chen remembered that Carter's niece was very good, and she had not yet been bitten by Captain America, an old man. You have been very active with Mutant recently. Fury saw that Natasha Romanoff was frustrated and immediately changed the subject. Fury pushed a tablet in front of Su Chen and looked at Su Chen expressionlessly with only one eye. It's nothing. Sometimes I think Mutant's magic ability is very good. Sometimes I can't help but want to find 1 or 2 to come and guard the door for me, can't you? Su Chen talked about Tan Shou, and the handover procedures for Chin have been going through recently. Chin will have to look after Su Chen in a while. As long as Su Chen's check-in place is not affected, it is very likely that Su Chen will sign into the Phoenix Force. Are you sure you're not looking for supernatural abilities, rather than magic abilities? Fury knocked on the table and handed the Mutant Academy information to Su Now. If you don't hire ability, how can you hire 2 agents? After saying this, Su Chen looked at Natasha Romanoff. He is a nice person, but I dislike him. Su Chen is still Su Chen. There is no time to stop working hard. Your current actions have panicked the Security Council and the citizens of New York. Those who didn't know it thought they had suffered a nuclear attack on their homeland. Whether it was a nuclear weapon strike, or whether nuclear radiation was detected. Don't you have some clues in your mind? Su Chen said nonchalantly. You should also be lucky. I don't know who did it. If it hadn't been reported by the major media, you would be out of the circle now. Quote question mark question mark question mark. We magicians have never mastered the power of the media, don't talk nonsense. Su Chen repeatedly denied that Kamar-Taj did not have the money to hire the media. Su Chen, whether you admit it now or not, you are the culprit who destroyed most of Manhattan, blew up the entire New Mexico and the fringes of New York. Is it me? Why didn't I know? Su Chen grinned and said it didn't matter. Who can prove that he did it? Whoever jumped out. Su Chen immediately went over to talk to him about his ideals in life. Fury ignored it and kept talking to himself. The most important thing is that it has caused huge amounts of economic losses. The positive economic losses have reached trillions, and the indirect economic losses cannot be calculated. How many years will it take the Bank of the United States to print money to make up for this? Oh, Lu Dan, who gave you the courage to come to settle accounts with me? Su Chen's face darkened. RTT, is it okay if I throw a few frustrated qigong waves into the White House? It will save me the trouble of having to repair them. Are these political people out of their minds now? I'm not injured yet, so why should I start treating myself like a sheep, or am I getting fat? No, 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 definitely not. We just want to say that we hope you will be quieter next time you fight. Fury gave in decisively and refused to explain. Fury only has the power to send messages and give orders. He also wants to stay on Earth for 2 more years. Unless the people on Earth have developed weapons against stars and space travel vehicles. Otherwise, with the current comprehensive strength, those on the Security Council should just go to sleep. There is everything in the dream. That's good. You know, the last person who spoke so harshly was already made into a specimen by me. After saying that, Su Chen controlled the can containing Apocalypse to float out of the storage room. This made Fury tremble with fear, but these things are not very important. I would like to know, besides Alexander, are there any other Hydras with higher status in S.H.I.E.L.D.? Fury glanced at Su Chen and told him what he was most worried about recently. Although many Hydra personnel were drawn along Alexander's line, he was worried that some fish might still slip through the net. Why don't you come over and ask? You don't know Hydra's catchphrase, right? Su Chen glanced at Fury. He didn't really think that Hydra would be dealt with so easily. If you cut off one head, 2 will grow. This is Hydra. The essence of Hydra is actually an idea, or ideology, of human power rule. This kind of thinking exists in any era, and it cannot be said to be right or wrong. It is just that it is not suitable for this era. And as long as this idea does not disappear, Hydra will always exist. Quote. You don't really think you've done it, Red Skull? Hearing this, Fury, who was heartbroken, had a clear look on his face, as if he knew it would be like this if he said it again. There are people from S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra, but they are more hidden now. It has to be said that S.H.I.E.L.D. has now eliminated about 70% of its employees. If it were not for the 9-to-5 employees, S.H.I.E.L.D. would not be able to operate now. Let's talk about something else. Su Chen, do you know Tesseract? Su Chen looked at Fury with a strange expression. Tesseract? Is there something wrong with your research on the Tesseract? That thing is much more dangerous than a nuclear bomb. Fury took a deep breath to organize his words and said, You think I don't know? Because of your appearance and the threat of aliens, those on the Security Council are trying to prevent the upcoming danger. So we have to have better weapons. Through the space gem, the energy in the universe can be continuously extracted. For the Earth, this is eternal energy, the key to entering the interstellar era, and the greatest treasure given to mankind by God. Even if there are countless risks hidden behind it, the powerful and powerful people flock to it. It's not that I'm not afraid of death, it's just a matter of luck. Give it a try, just in case it works. So, Chi-san exploded because you were playing with it. Su Chen said lightly. Fury said with an embarrassed look, It was fine at first, but yesterday the Tesseract suddenly burst out with amazing energy. Then, there will be no more. Our people can't control this energy and can't control the Tesseract. As a result, his energy is getting more and more. In a few days, everyone can return to the stone tools. It's time. I have to say that S.H.I.E.L.D. is enough. Something has obviously happened to the space gem, and it is such a thing. It is also a skill to be able to be so calm and calm. Fury spent a lot of money to build an underground base specifically for researching space gems. In order to avoid Su Chen's perception, it was also built in the United States, which is the farthest place from the investigation. I thought the space gem was stolen and it was just leaking energy, a minor problem. Su Chen, can you solve it? Fury and Natasha Romanoff looked at each other and said eagerly. Now they are not as calm as they imagined. I dared to chat before. No, I'm not a power bank. What should I use that energy for? We are facing a global catastrophe at a cost we cannot afford, so you want to seek help from me? Su Chen took over. Yes, now the Tesseract's energy is about to expand to the point where it can destroy the Earth, so in order to... I refuse, you can blow up the Earth, it's none of my business. Fury Natasha Romanoff. Su Chen, you don't even care about Earth Lord now. Fury complained. Don't you know that if the Earth is destroyed, everyone will die? Su Chen pulled her ears, and even the dog on her side looked at the two people in front of her with disdain. What will happen if the Earth is destroyed? It's not like I can't survive without the Earth. Are you still a human being? Can humans survive in the universe? Quote question mark question mark question mark. You don't know humans who can survive in the universe. What's all the fuss about? Don't use your superficial knowledge to constrain the world of the strong. If you're far away, let's take the Hulk. When he's at full strength, he might be able to use the Earth as a springboard and jump directly into the stars. Are you angry? At the moment, on the other side of the Tesseract, in an unknown world somewhere in the universe, an alien army is waiting. The Tesseract has been activated on a planet controlled by a tiny creature, Earth. It is extremely stupid for humans to want to use its energy. They don't even know how to use the most basic methods of Tesseract, they only steal some trivial energy. I saw a person who seemed to be a leader, kneeling on the ground, reporting information to the person on the throne in front of him with his back to him. This person is none other than Purple Potato Sauce, the big boss in Avengers Alliance. And this leader is the only Kurita trooper under Thanos who has mastered this core technology. Our allies will lead the way, and the Kurita's armies will follow. As the Chiridan leader spoke, he stood up carefully and retreated to the steps at the bottom of the throne. Then he secretly looked at the third princess of Asgard, Loki. I only want one person. The third princess Loki said firmly. No problem, I can even give you the whole Earth afterward. The Chiridan leader said, and handed a scepter inlaid with mind gem to Loki attentively. Yes, I won't refuse. Loki smiled seductively, even an alien like the king of Kurita cannot bear Loki's smile. So beautiful, a slight smile is charming. Loki ignored the seduced king of Kurita. This was not the first time. In Asgard, she has already felt the strange feeling brought by cross-dressing. Since the transformation, he found that she is really beautiful. Loki was still looking for an antidote from his mother, but was still unable to solve the root cause of the problem. Even the effect of the medicine lasted less than a day before it returned. And the moment he turned into a girl, her brother also changed. He no longer thought about becoming the king of Asgard, but instead showed his love to her day by day. No matter how many times he explained to Thor, I'm the younger brother. Thor ignored him. Even Odin rebuilt Mjolnir for Thor, but Thor didn't react at all. You must know that the hammer is Brother Hammer's true form. Over time, my brother who doesn't exercise is also getting thinner day by day. Loki, she will never know how hard Thor has trained for Loki. Loki, he knew he had to do something, he couldn't let his brother fall like this. Even if he ascends the throne, Loki himself will not feel any sense of accomplishment. In order to cheer up my brother again, he must go to the Earth, find the guy who gave his brother the potion, and let him change himself back. In order to punish him, he was tortured to death. Loki turned around and used the instrument given to the Chiridans by the adult, and successfully opened the portal. Shield, in a hidden base. After passing the levels, Fury brought a Shiba Inu to the base. Fury looked at the dog in front of him and realized that his hairline seemed to have moved 2 meters downward. What made him even more headache was that his face seemed to be darker and his Nightcrawler ability became more and more powerful. In fact, Fury is very uncomfortable. With his sharp tongue and Natasha Romanoff's charm, it's useless. It's better to just bring a little girl with him. In the end, I finally invited this dog uncle based on the last video. Are you sure he is strong? These were the last words Fury said in front of Su Chen. Then I was given a profound care by the King of Thunder and Lightning, by this harmless and prosperous person. It was Natasha Romanoff who brought him back later. And this is still friendly help. Whether this trouble can be solved in the end depends on Fury himself. Fury soon arrived at the underground base. The director is back, Johnny said to Phil Coulson while he was doing nothing. Phil Coulson knew that the director had gone to ask for help, but what made him happiest was that he didn't take him with him. Phil Coulson was always happy, but when he thought about the possibility of working together next time, he suddenly became unhappy again. Just the two of them coming back? Phil Coulson suddenly asked, having the answer would make him feel better now. No, there is another one. To be precise, they brought back a dog this time. Phil Coulson's face suddenly fell when he heard Johnny say this. A dog. There is a dog next to Su Chen. Even if he can't bring Su Chen, bring the little girl next to him. What's the point of bringing a dog? Finally, with Fury's strong support, the man took a dog to the inside of the base. The picture is quite funny. Watch the energy expand around the Tesseract. Fury couldn't help but have an idea in his mind. How about you electrocute the Tesseract? Fury suddenly said to Thor. Woof, I am Thor. The professor on the side kept reminding, the current Tesseract is quite unstable, and there is a lot of energy around him. If he attacks at will, he may. Professor, do you have a better way to deal with it? If the accumulation continues, we won't be able to survive tomorrow. If we deal with it now, we will destroy this base for a few kilometers at most. Before Fury could finish speaking, Thor held up Mjolnir and hammered it at the cosmic magic not far away. Boom! After a roar, what was expected did not happen. Instead, it seemed to be activated, and the scattered energy gathered. Under a burst of cool BGM, beauties with gorgeous figures appeared in front of everyone. Being single does not differentiate between species. Beauty, please put down the weapons in your hands. As the king of agents, how could Nick Fury be tempted by beauty unless no clothes on? Looking at the agents around him with their eyes widened, Fury spoke directly to bring them back to reality. We finally arrived on Earth. I didn't expect to get lost during the interstellar travel of Space Gem. Loki stretched, his proud figure clearly visible under Asgard's armor. Tell me where Su Chen is. Loki asked lazily, looking at the people who were already fascinated. Beauty, are you here to see Su Chen? I know this one. I'll take you there, Johnny said excitedly. He didn't even notice the warning that the hellfire in his body was raging. After Johnny finished speaking, he happily ran to Loki. He completely failed to recognize that the person in front of him was Loki, who was beaten badly by Su Chen. Otherwise, he would never be in this limelight. Seeing that the Avengers members I recruited rebelled within a few minutes, I couldn't help but regret it. No wonder old friends always have a trick, a beauty trap. What Fury didn't know was that he was the one who used this honey trap the most. It's you. I know you two are familiar, so come and be my subordinate. Loki recognized that the person in front of him was with Su Chen. Instead, he held the scepter against Johnny, trying to get the mind gem to control him. Fortunately, the fire of hell forced Johnny to protect the Lord and turned Johnny into Ghost Rider, thus escaping the disaster. Hell's crawler, disgusting. Loki casually controlled the scepter to shoot a beam and hit Johnny. After seeing Johnny's current situation, everyone also knew that Johnny was not a good person. Here to cause trouble. Woof. I am Thor. Seeing that the man in front of him was an enemy, Thor, who had been silent until now, was finally ready to take action. With the appearance of Thor, Loki's eyes widened and he felt this sense of recognition. The power of Thor. Mjolnir, are you Thor, brother? Loki's tone was unkind, and his blue eyes were filled with blazing fire. Who turned you into this? Woof. I am Thor, for the honor of the northern god. Thor's brain couldn't handle so many questions, and he couldn't speak for a while. It must be that Su Chen, right? He turned you into this, right? Don't worry, I will let him change you back. If he doesn't, I will kill him. Invisible imagination is the most deadly. Seeing Thor like this, Loki was very excited. She suddenly burst out with her fastest speed so far, even Thor couldn't dodge, and was wrapped around Loki's waist. Even Thor couldn't break free due to its overwhelming strength. Thor struggled for a while and then gave up because he felt more comfortable in her arms than in Su-chen's arms. The only bad thing about Thor is that his head is a little heavy with 2 lumps of meat staring at it. Looking at this harmonious scene, Fury couldn't help but complain, how can you change back after killing him? And Fury has already guessed the other party's identity through a few words. Make eye contact with Phil Coulson. Your report seems to say that Loki is a boy. Why is he such a beautiful woman? Phil Coulson judged it based on Loki's clothing. He also didn't understand why the dignified third prince of Asgard turned into a woman. How do I know, but it seems that everything is a misunderstanding. How about we talk to her? If you don't go, women are unreasonable and there's no point in talking about it. Do you want to die? Natasha Romanoff joins the I group chat. Everyone looked at each other and suddenly fell into a strange silence. Boom. As the battle started, Shield's secret base was directly reduced to rubble. Loki was alone in a fierce battle with Johnny. It hit the ground directly from the ground. But Loki is still able to do it with ease, and he holds a Shiba Inu and smashes the heads of these agents in a hanging style. So what Fury was thinking was, the dog has rebelled. Is this all you have? Loki smiled evilly, if no one stops me, I will take this tesseract away. Loki danced the scepter, and during the process, he fired an energy bomb at Johnny, who was almost immortal. Suddenly a fighter plane came quickly from a distance, and a figure with blue and white stripes fell from the sky. There was a muffled sound. Sorry, it's too dark and I can't find the landing point, so. Steve's perfect landing caused our Johnny's HP -0. Oh, he's actually a veteran. Don't you have anyone else? Loki looked at Steve's outfit with disdain. The aesthetics were so bad. Apparently the captain's attire can no longer keep up with Loki's increasingly sophisticated aesthetic. You're no better than me. Steve immediately shot back, judging him for violating his beliefs. In terms of aesthetics, Loki's armor is not that good, it's a bit retro. But who is Loki? A person from the divine realm who has practiced illusion to its peak. Looking at this neutral outfit and armor, Loki also felt that it was time to change himself. Otherwise, my brother's diaphragm will shake. Then there was a flash of golden light, and Loki, who was wearing golden vintage armor, transformed into a white skirt. Are you a woman? Steve looked at the woman in front of him in shock, and couldn't help but be a little dazed. But Steve's words completely angered Loki, with anger written all over his face. You are a woman, you are a woman. Loki picked up the scepter and hammered it at the captain. No matter how weak Loki was, she still had the royal blood of an ice giant. This gave him speed and strength far beyond that of most races in the universe. Whether it's melee combat or magic, he has a unique skill. Steve was just at the peak of his human form, and the punch he exerted with all his strength only made him lean back. It was like a mosquito bite, and the pain was not worth mentioning. The captain could only hold up his shield to defend. The captain did not expect that the other party was so strong. He had received a call for help from the director before. Then, led by the shield plane, we quickly arrived here. He didn't expect that the other party would be so strong. This time he paid for his contempt. Wow, look, it's so lively here. ? A frivolous voice sounded from the loudspeaker, and Stark appeared high in the sky wearing a slutty red steel armor, swaying white jet exhaust. Why can Fury Rescue only call one person? The agent's good habit is generally to prepare 2 hands, not 3 hands. The first preparation was made, but Guzi had already rebelled, and Fury was tired. The second is the captain, and the third is Tony Iron Man, who is the most undisciplined. Tony is indeed a little expert in seeking death. Before the fight started, he threw out his taunting skills. He proved with his strength that as long as I am here, you will not hit my teammates. Oh, my enemy turned out to be a beautiful woman. Fury called the wrong person. I'm the best at dealing with beautiful women. Your legs are really long and your breasts are plump. Wow, how are you, beautiful woman? Are you interested in spending a night with me? I am very strong. My room has been opened for a month, room number XXX 520. I believe we will have a very romantic story. The captain was shocked. He thought Tony was seeking death, but Steve was happy so he wouldn't hit himself. So he swallowed his words to persuade Tony. Although the other party is his nephew in terms of seniority, what does it matter? The nephew is just there to cheat. Steve was looking forward to the scene of Tony being blasted. But Loki attacked quickly, but the captain couldn't resist, and his shield was knocked away. Then he focused on Tony in the sky. Loki controls the scepter to constantly fire energy at Tony in the sky. There is a mind gem in the scepter, and its energy is almost endless. For a moment, Tony was unable to dodge, and was brought to the captain's side. My shield was blown away. Only with the shield in hand can I exert all my power, the captain said helplessly. For the captain, shield is the main body. There was a shield just now, and you were beaten too, Tony complained weakly. Although he was not present when Steve fought, you can still see the scene of him being pressed and beaten all the way. Although it's not strong, Steve can give him a material stopper, which can make him more attractive. But after holding it in for a long time, Steve finally said this. I never hit a woman. Loki's scepter pointed in the direction of Tony, who was still the captain, and restored her proud face. Weak ones, your destiny is to obey. With his beautiful face, Tony can't even get angry with good jow. It seems that he still has it in his bones. Beauty, come and protect me. No way. Captain pushed Tony away from the death ray. However, the shield was no longer in hand, and his combat power declined seriously. He was beaten by Loki until he was running away with his head in his arms. The American Super Soldier program gave birth to the unique Steve, who seems to have lost his former glory. As for Tony's fighting ability, despite his good looks, the two generals of the Women's Federation were unable to do anything about Loki's spear. Midgardians, call to Western Sky, quickly. Boom. A colorful light falls from the sky. Isn't Bifrost ruined by this fool? Loki was puzzled. Odin, who was far away in Asgard, took the Staff of Eternity and spat out a mouthful of blood. This is the internal injury caused by Odin's forced use of divine power. Rumble. Accompanied by a colorful beam of light, the night sky where the waning moon could have been seen was now filled with dark clouds and lightning and thunder. Loki looked at the roar of thunder and lightning and subconsciously glanced at the dog in his hand. Suddenly it didn't smell good. Isn't Bifrost destroyed by Thor? Could it be that my father used his divine power? My father doesn't care about his body too much. Guys, we have a new guest. Steve looked at the scene in front of him. He was frightened by the 70-year cultural gap, but it could not stop his fighting spirit. As the light of Bifrost dissipated, Thor, wearing a red cloak, fell in the light of lightning. Just as she was about to scold Loki, she found a dog in her arms. An innate disgust arose spontaneously. The most important thing is that the dog still looks like he is enjoying himself. That's my place. Thor burst out with the strongest lightning energy in history, but he didn't attack anyone. Because the dog is in Loki's arms, Loki will be hurt if he attacks at will. It's Thor. He's one of our own. Phil Coulson climbed out of nowhere and shouted to everyone. Thor snorted, obviously not thinking so. Although Loki may have done bad things, Loki must not be bullied. Even if there is a mistake, he must punish it. Thor walked straight towards Loki, grabbing Loki's shoulders with one hand and pulling Thor's dog hand with the other. Get down here. Thor had a look of confusion on his face. What happened? I just found a safe and soft place to watch the show and didn't do anything, so why are you asking me for trouble? Under Thor's strong tearing, the dog was finally removed. To make it easier to distinguish, Thor will be replaced by the dog for the time being. Woof. I am Thor. This directly lit the powder keg, and Thor felt that not only had his sister been robbed, but his identity had also been strengthened. Thor's anger level skyrocketed to the maximum. Divine power surged, and Thor's body suddenly burst out with a fierce and powerful momentum. There were strong winds all around, flying sand and rocks, and the terrifying divine power directly turned into a thunder and lightning storm, entangling, spinning and rising rapidly. The dazzling light shines all around, as bright as the bright moon in the sky. Thor took out his latest Mjolnir, blue and white thunder and lightning wrapped around it. Terrifying pressure shrouded the surroundings. As ordinary people, Steve and others felt their bodies sinking. During Loki's distraction just now, he had taken back the shield, and now he felt that he could do it again. You, Su Chen, you gave my hammer to a dog. With Thor's full strength, his character became much more violent. Seeing Thor's outburst, Guzi was not to be outdone and took out Mjolnir from behind. A more powerful thunder force erupted. Earth-shaking thunder roared in everyone's ears, and the 100-meter-high wall was blown into pieces by lightning. The high temperature caused by the collision of lightning and breakdown of the air almost melted the surrounding area. But thunder and lightning are still brewing, and both sides are still gathering strength, waiting for the final explosion. How can a replica be better than the original? I am the real Thor. Woof! For the honor of the northern god. Guzi and Thor raised Mjolnir high, a terrifying storm surged around their bodies, and they hammered down fiercely. The rolling thunder and lightning turned into a giant thunder dragon nearly 100 meters long, colliding in the air. All go, bandit. Tony, the only person with flight ability among them all, was constantly struck by lightning, and his energy value was instantly full. Then he wanted to join the fight. As a result, Guzi and Thor each hit him with a hammer. Although he was not injured, he was knocked far away because of this. Thor and Guzi released the power of thunder to each other, but found that the other party and their own skills were the same. Even Guzi's power of the thunder and lightning is stronger than Thor's. In the end, Thor had no choice but to engage in hand-to-hand combat with the dog, CHBD. Thor took advantage of the length of his hand to hammer and kick, and a powerful aura spurted out. If his body was not a little thin, he would have a bit of a reckless aura. When Guzi saw this, he was not to be outdone, and started to Thor with his teeth bared. Despite his small size, however, it is more flexible. The collision between hammer and hammer caused lightning to fly. Boom! There was a loud noise, the air buzzed continuously in the exciting collision, and invisible shock waves rippled. The two wild behemoths suddenly collided together, and the shockwave spread out, rolling away in all directions with the two as the center. Thor and Guzi looked at each other, as if they had met their close friends and 1,000 cups would be enough. On the other hand, the heroic director did not die in the previous battle. With his Stalker in the Night ability, as long as Fury closes his eyes and concentrates, no one present can detect him. But contrary to expectations, the battle between Thor and Guzi started, and he was also affected. I happened to see Loki quietly take the Tesseract, and teleport away directly with the power of the Tesseract. When the director saw that Loki had disappeared, he immediately knew something was wrong, so he asked the captain for help. If he didn't ask the captain, how could he stop these gods from fighting? Steve, go and stop them. Loki ran away with the Tesseract. After saying this, Fury immediately started stealth mode. The captain paused and looked around. That was the director's voice just now. The captain looked at Thor and Guzi, who looked like two giant beasts in front of them. Every blow they struck could set off a powerless hurricane. Sometimes it was a battle of brute force, and the ground beneath their feet was broken. The surging momentum resounded throughout the world. This was no longer a battle between humans. But the captain is still moving forward. The captain took advantage of the gap in the fighting between the two sides and quickly rushed to the location where the two were fighting. Thor ignored this sudden intruder. The two of them seemed to have reached an agreement and directly gathered strength. Boom, boom. After two loud noises, two figures, one large and one small, suddenly jumped out of the center of the battle. Enough of the trouble. The captain walked out of the smoke and said to Thor, "What the?" The captain felt there was no need to reason with the dog. "Thor, you need to figure out why you came to Earth." Tony closed the video on the edge function. "Hey, Captain, I just realized that you were really brave when you were not hitting women." "That's right." Johnny jumped out to show off. Cough, cough, cough. Hearing his own words, Steve coughed several times. Everyone froze, and Thor, who didn't know when he had stabilized, once again accumulated this terrifying energy on his hammer. The night passed quickly. With the disappearance of Loki, the Avengers' first gathering infighting came to a perfect end. A friendly exchange opened a new chapter for the newly opened Avengers. While Nick Fury was dealing with the Security Council explaining yesterday's situation, he sent people to frantically search for the whereabouts of the universe, Rubik's Cube. The effect is pretty good, and it can be confirmed that Loki didn't even leave a hanging hair. Nick Fury's daily cunning rabbit hole does not place any hope on the luck of his subordinates. He can find the roadbed when he is shopping on the street. So he divided his forces into two groups. One was the ground search team represented by Steve and Thor, and the other was Natasha Romanoff, who went to India to persuade Dr. Banner to form a scientific research team with Tony to search for Mayan rays to determine Tesseract location. Thor and Guzi didn't get to know each other before they started fighting. Thor didn't want to fight for their reputation. Instead, they talked for a long time, drank wine, and became good friends across species. Steve would have believed it if he hadn't overheard the playful expressions on their faces as they were really exchanging sexual feelings. Tony then handed over the Tesseract information to everyone. And changed the name for Tesseract. Thor told everyone that Loki was caused by Su-Chen. Su-Chen, will never take the blame. Even without me, Loki would find a reason to attack the Earth. Loki's real purpose is to attract the alien army through the space gem, so that he can occupy the Earth and become king and kill Su-Chen. Everything looks quite bad. Although there are many people in the Avengers Alliance, everyone knows that the space gem is missing and Loki has not caught it. I still have no clue about space gem, and I have no way to start looking for it. Fortunately, Nick Fury heard Phil Coulson's report at the last moment. Head, Natasha Romanoff is calling. She's got the big guy. Nick Fury lowered his frown and smiled in relief. Have the communications department contact Natasha Romanoff and rush to the mothership as quickly as possible. The instruments for searching for gamma rays are ready, and now all we need is Dr. Banner himself. Clear, the key players are done, and now you can finally find the space gem. But now it's no longer a question of finding the space gem. Now that the apparent problems have been solved, the next step is internal conflicts. As an agent, the issue of the new appointment is very critical. The first is Stark. He can't think of any loyalty to a special department with a strong background like the official organization. You must know that he was still in litigation with the official organization before. Steve, who has been out of touch with the world for 70 years, cannot talk to everyone at all, and can only barely exchange a few words with Phil Coulson. Ghost Rider Johnny, stop talking, he is still squatting in the corner and keeps saying, "So evil, you are so evil." As for the alien Thor, do you think everyone can give him their back? Now he only has eyes for his younger brother. No, he is already his younger sister. Everyone is worried that if Loki says anything, the family may be suspected of direct rebellion. As for Guzi, everyone simply ignored him. He didn't understand the language, but he only knew a few sentences. How could he chat? Unless everyone has maxed out their bestiality, it's better to go to bed. Although Fury temporarily gathered these people, he failed to find a suitable leader to lead them. Avengers Beta has a dark future. In fact, this is indeed the case. Without logical ideological work, the team will begin to split. The reason is very simple. Captain, Thor, Tony, and even Johnny are the protagonists of each of the 4 dramas. In the big family of Avengers Alliance, it is natural to compete for the position of the protagonist. In order to express himself, Tony directly hacked SHIELD's network system. Tony directly discovered a lot of dark history. For example, African chiefs use their power for personal gain and use their positions to spend large sums of taxpayers' dollars to develop hair whitening technologies. Furthermore, S.H.I.E.L.D. stole the power of the space gem and developed weapons of mass destruction. The first one is fine, Tony may use it in the next 50 years, but the second one touches his discomfort zone. Weapons are untouchable to Tony now. You must know that he directly closed the weapons department at the beginning. Not to be outdone, the captain sneaked into S.H.I.E.L.D. and directly took out the big guy. Then Thor, whose mind was no longer about muscles but essence, said without any tact. It is your development and use of space gem that has attracted additional competition from aliens. This sends a signal to the entire universe to invite war. Our Earth is ready for a high-level war. Fury was upset on the spot. I lost so much hair to hide the fact that you were making energy weapons, and now I won't hide it anymore, I'm showing off my cards. Fury pointed at Thor, who was watching the show. It's because of you. Me. Thor was also unhappy. This was the rhythm of passing the blame. It's you aliens who came to Earth and ignored the personal grudges between brothers and sisters, which directly caused the United States to lose a state. You proved to us that the region is not alone, and is also very powerful. My sister and I have reconciled. And I didn't bomb that state. Thor frowned. That state was bombed by Su Chen. Why are you going to trouble them? What do you care about us? But you are not the only one in the universe, and your position cannot remain unchanged forever, except that there are too many threats in your universe, and humans are too weak. It doesn't matter whether the African chiefs were bombed by Su Chen, and Su Chen is from Earth, and besides, it's easy to pick on the weak. You are thinking too much. Not everyone is a potential threat. Thor wanted to explain. Yes, I am also preparing for the worst. Fury outshone the crowd and won the title of protagonist. But the saying that there is strength in numbers is not an exaggeration. No one present is an elite. In the end, they decided to join forces and scolded Fury until he couldn't hold his head up. Under this farce, Avengers successfully passed the test version and directly entered the public beta state. What, are you done arguing? Bruce Banner opened the door and asked weakly. Quote question mark question mark question mark question mark quote. Then what, where did I find Loki? You haven't finished arguing yet, go on, I'll talk to you when you finish arguing. New York is a metropolis with a rough fate. Counting Hollywood blockbusters in detail, it is not difficult to find that aliens have a special liking for this city. Today is another peaceful day, no gas leaks. The people of New York are living lifelessly as usual, and a few people with lofty ideals are planning to demonstrate together, but the story of the police killing black people on the street has been blown away, and January 20th has not yet arrived. What happened? Please write to me. They couldn't find a suitable excuse to march for a while. It would be great if aliens attacked the Earth, and we would have a reason to march. Yeah, it's all right and wrong. We can't go out because of this. Just when this group of passionate young people looked up at the stars, hoping to come out and search the spacecraft, a sky blue beam of light soared into the sky from the top of the Stark building. The beam of light hit a void at the top of the tallest building, more than 1,000 meters above the clouds. The space there was actually distorted. Start twisting. Space wormhole. The cloud hit by the back beam was really twisting crazily, and then it instantly formed a circular shape and expanded in all directions, forming a hole of several hundred meters in almost a few seconds. In this void are projected the stars of the universe. Don't ask why things on the Earth haven't been sucked out, just ask quantum mechanics. The passionate young man was dumbfounded and kept chanting, "See Gui." Loki looked at the outstanding scene he had completed and couldn't help but smile. Who says that space gem must be opened with technology? Magical power is not enough. So on the high-profile Stark industrial building, the roadbed directly opened the door to interstellar teleportation. On the other side of space, in a galaxy several trillion light-years away from Earth, huge amounts of space battleships are suspended in the silent starry sky, and there are countless semi-mechanical lives floating back and forth around him. These half-mechanical, half-biological monsters are not only huge in size, but also powerful. With their mouth full of sharp teeth, they can basically bite a small soldier. Their status is like a tank next to the infantry. They fought alongside Chitauri soldiers. The soldiers were all wearing helmets and armor, with ferocious faces, and their bloodthirsty and fierce eyes were shaking constantly. Chitauri is full of desire for destruction. When a faint and scattered fluctuation appears in the void, the desire to kill reaches the extreme, and everyone is boiling. Ouch! It's hard to imagine that such a semi-mechanical race is actually Thanos' most technologically armed force. Counting the Women's Federation 1, 2, 3 and 4. Look at the enemy's armed forces, the Women's Federation and Chitauri's semi-mechanical troops, using flying discs and energy guns. Women's Federation 2, an all-mechanical force, unfortunately made by Ultron. Women's Federation 3, okay, Thanos' troops just go back to primitives and just attack with tooth and claw. Co-author Thanos, do you have no funds? Do you need to go to Wakanda, the Black Brothers' house, to make some money? However, although the Thanos brothers are not strong, the Black Brothers are also honest and do not use spears or cannons. Directly use the spear to protect the body, and have a real man's contest with these beasts. Bucky on the other side cried when he saw it, and in his hands suddenly no longer smelled good. As for Avengers Alliance 4, there's not much to say. It's just a stew, and the Kurita infantry is gone. King Kurita looked at the soldiers in his hands and suddenly became filled with pride. Kill. So countless Chitauri got into the space channel and poured into the sky above New York. They shouted loudly and tilted energy beams towards the city crazily. When Fury, who was far away on the space carrier, learned about the location of the space gem, New York was attacked by the Cheritons. Many people on Earth didn't know it yet, and then suffered disaster in an instant. Fortunately, the governor of New York State, to be honest, from the perspective of a bystander, I quite like this person, he is quite straightforward, immediately launched an evacuation operation. But the effect was not obvious, and a large number of ordinary people still died. This was a merciless massacre by the Cheritons. The army was too slow and would not be able to reach the scene for a while. At present, we can only rely on the police to maintain the battle. How can the police arrive 3 seconds late? Facing the elite Kurita people, 1 word, food. 2 words, food. Fortunately, their New York City superhero, Iron Man, is here. She came wearing his red armor. Tony, who was not on a plane, got there first and stubbornly sniped at the enemy in the air with his own firepower. Although Tony's firepower system is powerful, after all, he only has 1 person, and the firepower carried by 1 mecha is obviously insufficient. Moreover, there are too many enemies. Ants can kill elephants, not to mention these warriors. So Stark successfully eliminated a wave of Chitauri soldiers with small laser-guided tracking projectiles, but unfortunately the disparity in numbers between the enemy and us was too great. Stark had to constantly evade energy attacks, so after just over 10 seconds of contact battle, he was chased and running away. Fortunately, the file size of the space channel is only so large, which limits the number that can come out. Although I know there are many, the hole is only so small. So it takes time, take your time. Although it has to be done slowly, the firepower covering the entire New York is still enough. In just a few quarters of an hour, New York was covered by Kurita soldiers. Looking from a high altitude to the ground, thick smoke was billowing from the streets and buildings one after another. Tony was being chased everywhere, and he could only watch while he was anxious. Fortunately, at this time, the Avengers team arrived in time. Did you come here on a snail? Tony shook off the Kurita soldier behind him and fired a palm cannon at him. Under his expectant gaze, the Quinjet, piloted by Hawkeye and Natasha Romanoff and carrying Steve, Ghost Rider, and Banner, rushed into the battlefield at high speed. Then, being chased and intercepted by Chitauri, she joined him in the escape. Are you here to make fun of me? Stark was furious. He was like a bad teammate. Looking at the driving skills of these 2 agents, Ghost Rider couldn't stand it anymore. Their driving skills were not as good as those of his unlicensed flight pilot. What the hell are you flying? You can't even fly a plane, get out of the way. Let me do it. Please like and subscribe. Chapter 71. On the battlefield of science fiction movies, powerful magic is generally needed to achieve victory. Unlike the hot-blooded movies, the output basically relies on roaring, and the damage basically relies on physical combat, so just these Avengers people are still not good at it. For Tony, who is wearing a machine that turns on his whole body, he has limited weapons and equipment. Even with a power bank, the battery life is average. Now he is being chased and beaten. Johnny watched the plane he made jump up and down and ran straight to the cab. Get out of the way, I'll do it. Seeing Johnny getting angry, Hawkeye gave up and got out of the way. After Johnny's training during this period, he is now able to skillfully transform into Ghost Rider during the day. Otherwise, he wouldn't have emerged from this interstellar battle. When Johnny tightened his grip on the steering wheel, Johnny immediately burst into flames. All the muscles in his body were burned by the flames, and his bones shone brightly, and the whiteness was translucent. Following Johnny's skeleton arm, the hellfire spread directly to the plane. In the blink of an eye, the entire Quinx aircraft was modified by Johnny. Natasha Romanoff saw that the plane was about to be loaded onto the building, but the Kunkel aircraft was still suspended in the air. The plane was dyed black by hellfire, and hellfire was constantly emerging from the gaps between machines. The flame jet device on the tail part is no longer a dark blue flame, but now a deeper red-black color. Ha 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 ha. Skeleton Johnny suppressed his tax evasion mood and flew a Quink aircraft that had been strengthened by hellfire. Dived downwards at an almost unreasonable speed. It turned instantly when it was close to the ground. Natasha Romanoff, Captain, Hawkeye, and Banner in the plane were thrown out of the plane with the inertia. Then the plane's tail fireworks erupted into an astonishing pillar of flames, and Johnny drove the transport plane away from the fighter jet. Who am I and where am I? What just happened? Am I right? The plane can actually drift. Steve silently got up from the ground, feeling regretful. If I had such driving skills back then, I wouldn't know it either. 70 years too late. Johnny piloted the fighter plane and immediately opened fire with unlimited firepower. The ammunition on the plane seemed to be inexhaustible. The Chiruta people within a radius of 1 kilometer were all targets for your attack. With the blessing of Hellfire, the Kunker fighter not only has extremely strong defense power, but also has an extreme leap in speed. Rampage through New York along the way. Countless windows were shattered by the impact of the tyrannical plane. Without the pilot Johnny, the Kunkel aircraft seemed to become a super killer weapon in his hands. All kinds of ultra-difficult flight operations are at his fingertips. 1 second, he was struggling with the flight soldier behind him, and the next second, a chrysanthemum shot came from behind. No matter how skilled Johnny was, the other party didn't show Johnny his superb driving skills in turning around the gutter. Brother, can you add special effects to my armor? Tony's voice sounded inside the Kunker fighter plane, but Tony's response was a series of laughter. The mastermind of the war, Loki, is standing on the top floor of Tony's Stark Industries, overlooking the entire New York City. Looking at the constantly being invaded New York City below her feet, she couldn't help but think, is this all? Su Chen hasn't shown up yet. Every time Loki acts like a monster, his brother always appears, and this time is no exception. Tony appeared in front of Loki waving Mjolnir. Loki, stop making trouble, let's go back to Asgard. The Queen loves you, and it's not that she doesn't want you to turn back into a boy. It's true. Thor, stop talking. Do you really think I am such a superficial person? I am so angry, Loki Dancer Scepter said to the brother in front of him. I'm angry with you. Look what you did when you came back from Earth. You're not making progress day by day. Even if I become the king of Asgard now, I don't have the slightest sense of accomplishment. Loki said calmly, and couldn't help but sigh to himself. The person in front of him was still that silly brother. Loki, you want to be the king of Asgard. I quit on my own initiative and will even support you. You go back with me. I can give you whatever you want. If you don't have me, go to me. Suddenly Loki slowly disappeared in front of Thor. Is this a phantom? At this time, Loki had appeared behind Thor, ready to take advantage of Thor's distraction to stab the hidden dagger he had prepared into Thor's waist. Kidneys to be precise, but I don't know why Loki stabbed Thor's butt with the dagger by accident. Feeling the blood that kept flowing after the dagger was pulled out, the wound showed no signs of healing. Loki couldn't help but praise his wise behavior just now. If his brother died, he might still have a chance to be resurrected, but if his waist was gone, he would have nothing. What am I thinking? It seems like my thoughts are getting weirder and weirder. Woo, Loki, why are you doing this? Isn't it bad for you? Thor is crying, only Loki is laughing. Have the Kharitans finally taken action? A long cry came from the space channel above the head, and the huge swimming fish of Cyborg was slowly emerged from the space channel. The passage with a diameter of 50 or 60 meters was covered by his huge body. From his open mouth, he roared and let out a series of shocking roars. It's much larger than a whale, and it can still float. Fortunately, it's not Kyogre. Watching more than a dozen huge amounts of shadows looming over New York, swooping down with huge amounts of oppression. The captain subconsciously put the shield on his chest. It was beyond human power. Banner, can you still be angry? I've been angry. Banner instantly turned into the Hulk, jumped directly onto the giant beast's head. One punch and the giant beast's head was smashed to pieces. I need help here. Stark's voice came from the headset, and soon he led a metal giant flying from a distance. Before the Hulk could take action, a Kunkel aircraft passed quickly in the sky, and countless bullets were fired on the giant beast's head. Boom! After a few seconds, the giant beast dies. Although the people of the Avengers Alliance attack and destroy enemies very quickly, they still cannot stand up to the seemingly endless enemies. Have you been raped again in New York? Su Chen stood on a building, the robe on her body fluttering. Woof! Here, Loki has actually become a girl. Goozy, you have become evil. Su Chen originally co-authored Tea with Icarus at Holy Place in New York. How could he not know that something like this happened in New York? New York is his territory. As for why he didn't rush to the scene immediately, there is only one word, that is, wait. Wait for the distinguished guests to arrive. Waiting and waiting, the battle in New York is almost over, the Chiruta people have arrived at the door, and no one Su Chen wanted to wait for has shown up. Not even the Ancient One magician came. Su Chen had a headache waiting. As for who we are waiting for, everyone knows, it is the combination of Dr. Banner and the Hulk from the future. Uncle Thanos, could it be that if you received your lunchbox in advance, you would be beaten to death in the future? With such doubts, Su Chen had no way to get an explanation, so he had to leave the holy place and solve the problem of wormholes first. Otherwise, it would be really a little trouble if all the Kurita clan, which is similar to semi-mechanical life forms, comes to Earth. Watching Iron Man, who has lost his energy, return to the battlefield with the help of Thor and the road giant Ghost Rider can be called battlefield killers. Ghost Rider may not be able to do anything against stronger people now, but with one-hand enchantment, it is definitely a weapon for harvesting miscellaneous fish. Su Chen stood on the building, and Tony flew up with the armor. Why haven't you evacuated yet? It's not safe here, Guzi. Give me a thunderbolt charge. After speaking, Tony fired a palm cannon at the Kurita who tried to attack Su Chen. Don't use these soldiers, they won't do me any harm. After saying this, Su Chen's eyes condensed, and a strong, majestic and powerful aura filled the air from Su Chen's body. Between heaven and earth, there seemed to be an invisible air pressure condensing. At this moment, the air seemed to become as thick as a liquid. An invisible energy swept all around. The Kurita soldiers within 1 kilometer around Su Chen fell from the sky like dumplings. That's amazing. What kind of hero are you? Why haven't I seen you before? Seeing Su Chen's strength, Tony was conquered. This is the result of Su Chen's domineering power, but it seems that this domineering power has a bug on the Kurita people. After most of their soldiers were knocked unconscious, their bodies seemed to be controlled by machines. After a while, the Kurita soldiers slowly stood up. Water, water. Su Chen smiled calmly. Although one skill was wrong, it did not affect the overall situation. Icarus, start the scan function. Search the number of enemies. Tony looked at Icarus, but he hadn't noticed that there was a girl behind Su Chen just now. Looking at the other person's pupils that suddenly changed color, is it a robot? So what if he is a robot? He is the world's top mechanical engineer. What kind of robot has such scanning ability? It's good if it can cover the field of view. And just now Su Chen returned the favor, which made Wani look down on Chen a little. A total of 1,789.47. 1,789,078.96. Stark turned around and looked around. Are these numbers the number of alien troops? It's not just the number within sight. Is there really such a powerful scanning ability? But, what if we know the specific quantity? But in the next second, Tony forgot to think. His eyes showed a look of horror. After Su Chen shouted out, "Queen of the Sky mode," the girl in front of him underwent an astonishing change. With an angel halo on her head, a pair of pink wings are fully spread out. An aura even more powerful than that of Su Chen rose up. Icarus, lock the target. Erase all enemy units. The extra-dimensional channel that seems to be connected behind Icarus's wings, countless permanent rear-end missiles began to split. It didn't take long to reach the amount of 1 million. Following Su Chen's order, all the densely packed permanent star-chasing missiles in the sky were launched. Countless missiles rushed to the sky, like countless rays of light that were as fast as lightning, drawing a crescent-shaped arc and returning to the ground. Under every missile there must be a Kurita soldier. When countless sounds erupted at the same time, a symphony sounded over the entire sky over New York. Not even the metal behemoths of the Kurita soldiers could withstand a single blast of artillery fire. Even the Kurita people hiding underground in the building did not escape the bad luck, and the walls and the ground were also blown up. There is no escape, there is only death. New York City, which was originally bustling with activity, fell into silence again. At this time, Tony's hands were shaking violently in shock, and he was constantly mumbling. Space technology. With it, the storage of weapons does not have to take up space. Scanning technology. It seems feasible if the sensor technology is upgraded. Looking at the reaction just now, the artificial intelligence technology seems to be very strong. Tony looked at Icarus's eyes as if he wanted to see through Icarus's surface to see clearly the internal structure. Looking at the perfect work of art in front of him, Tony shouted out without thinking. What kind of robot is this? How much did it cost? I bought it. Su Chen looked at Tony through the helmet with a crazy expression on his face. Dislike. This is a universal entertainment robot. It's not for sale, it's my sister. Tony realized that he had lost his temper, but looking at this powerful robot, he couldn't help but want to study it. So it has a name, Universal Entertainment. Entertainment, you told me that a robot that can wipe out all enemy troops is entertainment. Tony started yelling. Isn't it possible? Didn't you also say that your armor is not a prosthetic limb to help the elderly move? Tony felt as if he had eaten Shang. No nuo jiao. Suddenly I felt like I was. I picked up the cigarette butt and burned my mouth. You are lifting a rock to hit yourself in the foot. And, on the aerospace aircraft carrier, Nick Fury looked at the black and white snowflakes on the screen and stood calmly on the command platform. The politicians in the Security Council and the 5 communicators also sat in silence. There is no decisiveness or ruthlessness as before when he wanted to launch a nuclear bomb. Fury couldn't help but sneered when he saw the 5 people dumbfounded. Everyone, do you still insist on launching nuclear bombs now? If a nuclear bomb explodes on that person's head, are you ready to bear his wrath? Can a nuclear bomb kill Su Chen? Nick Fury doesn't want to try. 5 members of the Security Council. Nick Fury laughed miserably. Fortunately, we still have a magician who is dedicated to protecting the Earth. Otherwise, the Earth would be really naked and exposed to the universe. Over New York City, the Space Channel has not been closed for a long time, but there is nothing. After all, millions of soldiers were killed instantly. No matter who led the troops, they had to calm down before continuing the attack. Su Chen looked at the end of the space passage and found that Thanos had not arrived in person. There is just a space battleship of the Kurita Force suspended in the universe. Just when Su Chen was about to wipe out the opponent in one fell swoop, a group of figures suddenly appeared in front of Su Chen. Led by Loki in a battle dress, behind him stands the tall and muscular Chidori. They are taller, their armors are better, and their aura is more fierce. They look like soldiers who are good at fighting. Even the laser weapons in their hands have been replaced by cold weapons such as swords, guns, swords and halberds. It seems that he wants to prove to everyone that only sissies can play with guns. Presumably these are the elite of the Kurita people. The Chiritans knew that a decapitation operation was necessary, otherwise the cannon fodder would not be able to enter the Earth at all, otherwise the battle would be lost, so they directly cooperated with Loki to decapitate them. At this time, Thor was holding his butt and reluctantly using Mjolnir flight. Brother, stop making trouble, let's go home, okay. Thor looked ugly. After all, he was bleeding profusely, but he still said to Loki in the gentlest voice. In Su Chen's opinion, Thor has been poisoned, and he's still very poisoned. Odin, it seems that you need to thank me. I helped you end the family ethics drama that has been going on for many years. Why don't you squeeze it out when you turn around? Odin, how can this be okay? Su Chen circled around and saw that most of the Avengers were either injured or exhausted, or they had run out of energy. Get ready to watch a family ethics drama. What are you looking at? Do you really want to go to the hotel with me? Loki glared at Tony, but she didn't know how lethal he was to men. Su Chen looked at Loki, who was already a peerless beauty, and almost laughed out loud during the dinner. I can't describe the countless thoughts in my heart at this moment. Loki no longer has the sign of a masculine man. He has blue eyes, long shawl hair, and a long black hair that is beyond description. He is too manly and top-notch. This is too beautiful, isn't it? She is obviously a leader. But she can bring disaster to a party by her appearance. No wonder some people say it. A man can either take a bowl of rice (chbg) and beg for food in a foreign country, or he can put on a skirt and be beautiful, or he can put on a prison uniform and be unparalleled in the world. Either put on the monk's clothes and live without fighting in the world, or put on the work clothes and move bricks everywhere, or put on the work clothes and be gentle. Or take the shield and fight in all directions. Or bring flash and show off to the opponent. Sure enough, all the cute ones are original boys. Su Chen, Stop making sarcastic remarks. Hand over the antidote quickly and I will spare your life. Loki ignored his brother's pleading, saying that he didn't see that he was doing something serious. The golden scepter has a streamlined aesthetic, the body of the staff is engraved with magic lines, and the pointed blade shines with cold light, but the most eye-catching thing is the dazzling gemstone. This gem is the mind gem among the 6 infinite gems. It allows the user to enter the minds of other people, and also allows all dreams, thoughts and ideas to enter the user's brain. It can enhance mental strength and increase psychic abilities. Even a light touch can change the other person's mind according to the user's wishes. At the same time, the Mind Stone originally also contained huge amounts of energy. With this scepter, Loki had the courage to challenge Su-Chen and get the antidote. Shanza felt that her mental power had become very strong. If she was given a chance to meet Su-Chen, she would definitely have a chance to change Su-Chen's mind. Do you think it's just you, or the people behind you? Or is Thor the one you rely on? Loki smiled faintly. What do you think? Come on, control him. Loki directed the Kurita people to fight, and at the same time sent out a few people to hold back everyone. There is no reason why I can't defeat you when I have the 2 great rough stones of the universe in my hands. Uncle Thanos can become the overlord of the universe with even 1 rough stone. There's no reason why I can't do it with 2. After speaking, Loki pointed to the space gem on one side that maintained the space channel in a demonstrative manner. A dozen Kurita people rushed towards Su-Chen, waving the magical weapons in their hands, but Su-Chen didn't even open the magic shield, and directly took out Frostmourne. At the beginning of the hand-to-hand combat, Jin Rui, who is worthy of being a Chiruta man, has superb fighting skills. And Loki did not join the battle as an assassin. Since becoming a girl, Loki's behavior has become more and more feminine, and he is unwilling to fight with anyone except his brother. However, Su-Chen's strength cannot be overshadowed. Su-Chen holds the structure in his hand, and every time he sweeps it, it can set off a hurricane. The sword is bloody. Looking at the Chiruta people who are still fighting even though they are covered in blood, Su now can't help but sigh at their bravery. Even though the gap in strength is clearly visible to the naked eye, he is still determined to die under Su-Chen's sword despite the difficulties. In another part of the space, the tiny bits of light from the Kurita people's space battleship gradually solidified. Su-Chen's sharp eyes could clearly see that it was a conventional weapon used in starry combat by hundreds of doors on the side of the mothership. Anti-ship beam ion cannon. It is obvious that the opposing fleet has an ultimate weapon similar to Icarus. Su-Chen can be sure that the Kurita people have never seen this before. The soldiers sent were all cannon fodder, and even the rain cover of the mothership was not opened. It is definitely possible that you were really poor. After all, semi-mechanical life also burns electricity and energy. In order to save energy and increase revenue, it is understandable that the defensive cover that burns money has a limited time system. When Su-Chen saw this, he didn't let Icarus take action. Su-Chen's face straightened, and he exploded with anger, directly knocking away everyone around him. Then he put his hands on his hips and frantically poured energy into his palms. The blue light in his hands skyrocketed. Turtle-style Qigong wave. A terrifying energy beam burst out, instantly entering the space channel and colliding with the beam particle cannon. Rumble. Through the space channel, there were several muffled roars in the sky, and the ear-splitting roar washed away the surrounding areas. The spilled energy crossed the space channel, causing a drastic change in the atmosphere above New York. The cloudless sky was suddenly covered with clouds, and countless silver lightning snakes were twisting and turning in the black clouds. It was like the end of the world, and they struck the lightning rods of nearby buildings. If you fight against the waves from left to right, you will lose if you go to the left. Looking at all the worlds and facing the Turtle School Qigong wave, the one standing on the left will lose. Unfortunately, the angle of the space battleship relative to Loki is on the left. Su-Chen was violently releasing the turtle-style Qigong waves. Loki was overjoyed. This was his chance. Loki quickly showed off his magic and activated a line of phantom techniques, trying to cut off Su-Chen's back while Su-Chen was distracted. But how could Loki's actions be hidden from Su-Chen's perception, not even Guzi's? As soon as Thor's nose moved, he immediately knew that someone was ready to rush over and beat this big brother to death. But someone was faster. Icarus took the lead and faced Loki directly. The pink wings of the Queen of the Sky brought extreme speed, and Icarus crossed his hands to block the scepter in front of him. Loki smiled. She knew how strong the person in front of her was. He was so strong that even the destroyer controlled by his father could destroy him. It is the same if he controls the Lord. Loki used the scepter to enter Icarus's mind, but Icarus's mind was ethereal. Loki's expression changed drastically, as if he didn't expect that the other party was actually a robot. Boom. Icarus may seem weak, but his strength is not something Loki dressed as a woman can bear. A powerful force was waiting directly in Loki's abdomen. Vomit. Loki vomited aside regardless of the image of the goddess. Thor dared to be angry but dared not speak, because after all, he couldn't beat her. Then I could only run to Loki's side to warm him up. Go away, I don't want you to take care of me. Loki looked at Thor coldly, and this cold gaze penetrated deeply into Thor's heart. But he is not strong-willed, and his younger brother and younger sister are just there to pamper him. After the fierce collision of energy, it quickly dissipated and was destroyed in the air. Facts have once again proved to us that if we fight against each other, we will lose. After regaining consciousness, Su Chen quickly adjusted her mentality and looked at Loki, who was about to commit suicide. Unlike Su Chen who is fighting, the ordinary Women's Federation staff who are now exhausted are hiding in a pizza shop. Even Hulk has returned to banner status. How's it going up there? The captain said into the microphone next to his ear. What else can I do? Loki is seeking death and trying to provoke the big devil. He will probably be taught a lesson later. Stark suddenly fell from the sky. And he opened his armor. After all, the battery was out and he wouldn't be able to take it off later. Everyone ignored Stark who fell down, and instead looked at the beam of light outside the window that seemed to penetrate the sky and the earth. This is the ability to destroy a city, right? So powerful. Natasha Romanoff was a little obsessed and even a little wet. It's very strong. The magician who protects New York has taken action. It seems that nothing will happen to us next. Why don't we open a champagne to celebrate? Stark took out a bottle of champagne from the bar, then took out glasses for everyone to serve. I think, should we close the space wormhole on the roof of your building? The captain said to Tony. Tell me how to turn it off. Tony replied. This seems to be saying that he doesn't want to shut it down. He doesn't even have a mechanism, so how can he shut it down? Do you want to use your head to block the space wormhole? Everyone was silent. Come and have a drink to warm yourself up. Su Chen put away the paws and looked at the somewhat panicked Loki and said, Dear Princess of Asgard, can you tell me how to close the space channel? Loki's pupils shrank. Was he going to fail again? He was unwilling to give in. Wait for him to come over and then give him a fatal blow. I can tell you the spell to close the wormhole in space. Su Chen glanced at the shimmering mind gem and smiled lightly, knowing what Loki wanted to do. You are a person who is unwilling to give up. So what you are thinking now is that you should wait for me to get close, and then use the mind gem's ability to kill me as a last-ditch effort. Don't worry, I won't be that easy. Fool. Su Chen said lightly. Loki revealed the bitterness and now he has nothing to say. This was his own mistake. He didn't realize that the other party was a robot until now. I'll give you a chance. You can rush over now and fight to the death. Su Chen said with a smile. Loki, no. If you tell me, I can still take you. Before Thor could finish speaking, Loki's fighting spirit broke out again. Holding the scepter, he instantly appeared in front of Su Chen. Su Chen didn't dodge at all. Su Chen, your arrogance today is the biggest mistake you have ever made. After speaking, Loki tapped the scepter on Su Chen's chest. The light above flashed. After half a ring, there was no movement. How is that possible? Why weren't you controlled? Su Chen snatched the scepter from Loki's hand and gently tapped the gem on it. He didn't suffer any mental shock, and he only felt a slight mental increase while holding the gem in his hand. What didn't Thanos say to you when he gave you the scepter? Loki's face suddenly changed. Do you know that person? How did you know? What's so weird about this? The whole universe knows where the mind gem is in Thanos. Are you telling me that this is not it? Or is this a fake? Su Chen shook the scepter in his hand. Although this is a mind gem, this scepter sets many restrictions on gems. How is it possible? I can clearly feel the power contained in this scepter. This is one of the infinite gems and is what Thanos relies on to become the overlord of the universe. Loki was obviously shocked that he had not been able to control Su Chen just now. In fact, it's not Loki's fault, it's just that Su Chen's mental barrier is too strong, and Mind Gem won't be able to break through it for a while. And if the Mind Gem was really that powerful, Thanos would have used it to control everyone in the universe to help him find the wireless stone. This shows that this scepter is strong, but not as strong as imagined. It's definitely possible that it doesn't match Thanos' attributes. Moreover, this scepter did not show its due power in the hands of logic. So Thanos gave you such a powerful scepter, but didn't tell you how to use it, without an instruction manual. Does this mean you were a pawn of Thanos? Hearing that he seemed to have been abandoned by Uncle Thanos, Loki couldn't help but fell into Thor's arms in despair, crying like a bullied child. Thor originally had a certain hatred for Su Chen. After all, if Su Chen beat his sister like this, his brother couldn't be a little angry. But with Loki's hug, Thor immediately smiled and wiped away the hatred. I will never mention that I will avenge my sister in the future. Instead, he comforted Loki softly, don't be afraid, you have a brother. Brother will protect you. Thor held the soft Loki in his arms and comforted him carefully, without mentioning at all that his sister betrayed him and stabbed him in the butt. What does this mean? Isn't it just a stab in the butt? I'll stab you back later, and you can even hit me with a bayonet a few more times. Su Chen instilled this spiritual energy into the scepter again, but still had no reaction. We could only guess whether Thanos had imposed some seal on him, making it difficult to control. Su Chen is still very interested in Mind Gem, and can even create artificial intelligence like vision under unexpected circumstances. If given the chance, Su Chen would also like to get one to expand his team. And you can take on a career as an assassin, such as penetrating the wall to your lair, and then shooting a laser in your face. Then the other party had no choice but to play GG. Even if the Mind Gem could strengthen his spirit, he might be able to solve the Apocalypse duplication, wouldn't it be great? But the only problem is that there are too many infinite gems on the Earth. Where is the Time Gem in Ancient One? The Mind Gem is in hand, the Space Gem cannot escape, and even the Reality Gem is still in an unstable space somewhere on the Earth. Therefore, with so many gems on the Earth, it seems that a dragon can be summoned accidentally. Uncle Thanos. It may even lead to other great gods. Su Chen held the scepter in his hand and looked around at the cheering people around him. He flew directly to the Tesseract's position, holding the scepter, and tapped the tip of the staff on the defensive cover formed by the Tesseract's line energy. Although the Mind Gem and the Space Gem are from the same source, they are also repulsive and their energies cancel each other out. Su Chen easily pushed the scepter in until the two came into contact. Boom! In an energy shockwave, the energy gathered by the Space Gem quickly dissipated. The energy beam that lost its energy also dimmed and broke from its roots. Finally, the space passage above the Stark building rapidly shrank, the collapsed space healed rapidly, and the space passage was annihilated into nothingness. Su Chen picked up the Space Gem. Infinite Gems +1. Su Chen, is the Tesseract something from Asgard? You should know that. Seeing Su Chen pick up the Tesseract, Thor couldn't help but remind him that since the Bifrost was stepped on by him, now he can only rely on the Space Gem to return to Asgard. If the Space Gem is collected by Su Chen and is not allowed to be used, he will have to stay on Earth until Bifrost is repaired. What, you want to take it back? Su Chen couldn't help but rolled his eyes. Are the things you get available to you when you want to? Yes, I will bring it back to Asgard, and my father will seal it. This way no one will covet him. Thor held Loki and insisted. Thor, do you think I don't have the ability to protect the Space Gem? Is it true that the Earth has no power? SC replied lightly, which scared Thor and shut up immediately. Maybe you can leave the Space Gem to shield. Natasha Romanoff took the elevator and walked up to the rooftop with the other Avengers. Natasha Romanoff looked at the Space Gem, wondering if this was a command from Fury in the headset. Wireless energy is the key to whether the Earth can enter the universe and cannot be lost. Although it is not realistic to get it back, he still wants to try it. And it's not just Fury, even Tony wants to study the Space Gem. His father had studied the Space Gem back then and came up with a new element. He thought he was better than his father, so he wanted to try it too. Maybe we can research something that transcends this era. Oh, here you go. Is there going to be another battle in New York? You know, the one who covets him. I may not even be able to do it, let alone you. The only sure winner is Odin, who is in full condition, but seeing how he was harmed by these two children, he probably won't be able to survive for a few days. When the fight breaks out, you won't be enough to fill people's teeth. It's better for me to just leave it to collect dust in the warehouse than to give it to you. But Natasha Romanoff wanted to say something else, but obviously S.H.I.E.L.D. still didn't give up. We in Asgard don't expect that space gem, but we only want to use it once to return to Asgard. Thor interrupted Natasha Romanoff and heard Su Chen say this. Thor was a little worried about his father at home, so he said to Su Kong. Next came the bargaining session. After it was over, Su Chen returned to the holy place satisfied with 2 infinite gems and a bunch of Asgard specialties. Avengers succeeded at first stop. The surviving citizens of New York ran wild in the streets filled with cheerleading corpses. Today they experienced the ups and downs of life. A mixture of surprises is not an exaggeration to describe their mood. People sit at home, and aliens come from the sky. First, aliens suddenly invaded the Earth, killing people, setting fires and wreaking havoc. Then the superhero team came on the stage, overwhelming the aliens and fighting them head-on. It's a popular idea to see Earth's heroes defeat evil aliens. Although the routine is a bit old, the citizens said they don't mind. Next, some virgin mothers commemorated the aliens, feeling that the aliens worked so hard to come to the Earth, but were killed before they could show off their power. It's quite pitiful to think about aliens like this. Let's burn incense. The people of New York City are grateful that they are still alive. This is the number of times they have faced the crisis of destruction on. Some time ago, there was the street boxing king in Manhattan. Then there was the earthquake disaster that was on the verge of it, and in recent years there have been gas leak explosions as large as file size and as small as small. They said that they would not be surprised even if the universe Emperor Frieza fell into New York tomorrow. Instead, I left it to the superhero to deal with it as a matter of course. Why are you afraid of someone taller? They can still have fun after the fight. For example, shopping on the streets of New York for $0. For ordinary people, this is a bad time that only occurs every year or several years. But I bought it for €0 today. If I go to that city tomorrow, I might still be able to buy it for €0. Beautiful, love-free America, across countless distances, located in a corner deep in the universe, on a sci-fi battleship. In the center of the majestic tall palace, on the golden throne that dominated the world, a muscular male alien wearing golden armor slowly opened his eyes. He has tough purple skin and a giant vertical chin. It is said to be the traces left by the most terrifying creature in the universe, the Yuan-devouring beast, and is taller than the Hulk. He is the famous Death Titan of the Eternal Clan in the universe, who controls countless cosmic forces and is regarded as the Emperor Thanos. Mind Gem has cut off contact with me. There was a hint of doubt in Thanos's wise eyes, not furious, just puzzled and thinking. It seems that the princess of Asgard failed. My God, Chidori has lost the gem. Do you want to exterminate his family? In the shadows, 5 figures shrouded in black robes knelt in front of the throne. It doesn't matter, I didn't really expect them to capture the Earth, and the Earth is not that simple. However, merits and demerits still require rewards and punishments, and losers must bear responsibility for their own mistakes. From today on, Kurita no longer needs a king, let's transform them all into synthesis beasts. You are so kind, you did not give them death, but gave them a strong body to fulfill your great ideal. The 5 figures caressed their chests with one hand, lowered their heads and said humbly, with longing shining in their eyes. Okay, let's find out who took the Mind Gem. In this way, the Earth will have 3 infinite gems. Is there any news about the Power Gem? Thanos raised his head and looked at the 5 figures under his hands. There is already news, Ronan has gone to get it. But Ronan seems to be a bit unabated. No problem, the Power Stone is not something Ronan can bear. Once the location is determined, all of us will go out to fight for it. As you command. There are 2 other gems wandering in the universe. It's time to gather them together again. In the holy place of New York, Su Chen has set up a little defensive barrier in the collection room, where there are various props collected by Su Chen. Today Su Chen will place 2 treasures in it, namely the 2 gems of space and soul. Because of Su Chen's collection, I wonder how many superheroes Marvel will lose. And because of the safe storage room in Su Chen's secret room, the energy emanating from it was perfectly isolated. If the African chief was researching the space gem in Su Chen's collection room, he would never have been controlled by Thanos and others to open the space gate and send Loki to the Earth. There would be no such thing as the Battle of New York. There is also an artifact from Asgard that was commissioned by the dwarf tribe to build for Su Chen. Its quality is not inferior to Mjolnir at all. It can be seen that Odin is very satisfied with his potion. Otherwise, he wouldn't have shown such sincerity and asked Thor to bring him down. Although it is not as powerful as the Storm Battle Axe, it is not much inferior. This is a long sword. In addition to being very sharp, it only has one special effect, which is high temperature. A little bit of the eternal fire is added to it, and each slash will have a certain fire effect. Perfectly paired with Su Chen's Frostmourne. Get up and make the fire happy. Ding! Congratulations on getting the long sword, the joy of fire. With the joy of fire and the sorrow of frost, with these 2 swords in hand, let's see who has the ability to call him a magician. In the future, when you see an enemy, give him a mad transformation, and then hold 2 long swords. Then turn on bloodthirsty and suck blood crazily at the opponent. Just imagine this scene and it will be exciting. It's not too much to guest star as a berserker in the future. Okay, seeing as there are so many good things today, I hope I can sign in and get some good treasures. System, sign in here. Ding! Congratulations to the host for the living weapon Zanpakuto. Zanpakuto, what do I need this thing for? I'm not a death god. Do you still need me to practice spiritual pressure? Su Chen checked the properties immediately. Zanpakuto no say. Beginning to understand the liberation language, swallow it, ye sha. The swastika is the liberation language, devour everything, ye sha. Looking at the attributes of this Zanpakuto, I was shocked at first sight. The basic attributes were very low, but from the beginning of the beginning, the attributes were close to those of the divine weapon, and the world of swastika crushed any weapon in Su Chen's hand. Imagine Kenpachi Zaraki's fighting style. This allows Su Chen to move towards the style of a berserker. The outside world is still going on, and the reconstruction work in New York City has not stopped since Su Chen became a holy place Asgardian. Under Tony's work, the Avengers successfully broke away from S.H.I.E.L.D. They were able to move freely and became an independent organization that was only responsible to the president. After all, Tony felt uncomfortable working under the King of Agents. Then Thor and Loki had enough honeymoon on Earth and returned to Asgard through Su Chen's space gem. Definitely space gem is still in Su Chen's hands. Su Chen, who is in the treasure house, can sign in and get a lot of good things every day, and the quality is super. Ding! Congratulations on getting Rollerman. From Digimon. Ding! Congratulations on getting a unicorn. From Digimon. Ding! Congratulations on winning any door. From Doraemon. Ding! Congratulations on gaining the magical power, Dharma appearance heaven and earth. From the mythical plane. Ding! Congratulations on gaining a bit of space power and gaining the skill, teleport. Ding! Congratulations on getting the super ability, psychokinesis. From X-Men Gene. Countless good things have been signed out, but only a few can still be used at Su Chen's level. But the rolling ball beast and the unicorn are indeed good partners. Normally you only need to feed them, and then accumulate energy, and then they can evolve at critical moments. Definitely the higher you evolve, the more energy it consumes and the less time it lasts. The most important thing is that they can evolve together. Evolve into Omegamon, the combat power soared to the sky, so Su Chen added one more generals to his team. Time flies, New York has entered a brief period of peace, and Su Chen has entered a leisurely clock in and work mode. At this time, Caecilius, a disciple of Kamar-Taj, finally showed his fangs. One day he accidentally felt the breath of the dark dimension on the Ancient One, and he finally understood that his mentor, the beacon in life, was secretly absorbing the power of the dark dimension. How could Kamar-Taj's magician do such a thing? But when he learned about the ability to absorb the energy of the dark dimension, he suddenly felt so good. So under the temptation of eternal life, he summoned a few trustworthy men and went to the library to steal the ritual book for summoning Dormammu. He wants to summon Dormammu to come to the real world, he wants to become a believer of Dormammu and gain eternal life. And he has to make more contributions and become Dormammu's right-hand man. The magician who was reading a book in Kamar-Taj's library was unprepared, and a magician whip quickly took action, instantly controlling him. And in order to create fear, he even chopped off his head. Armed with 2 battle axes, Caecilius successfully ended the myth of the librarian. Administrator. Is the keeper of my Kamar-Taj library so unscrupulous? Not a hidden boss like the sweeping monk. As the hinterland of Kamar-Taj, Ancient One noticed it immediately, but when he arrived, the librarian had already received the lunch box. Administrator. Does my living influence your pretense? Caecilius, this ritual will kill you. Ancient One reminded. Obviously Caecilius has entered the barrier and obviously will not pay attention to Ancient One's reminder. This ritual is equivalent to completely handing over your body and mind to Dormammu. Although you can get a lot of Dormammu's magic power, your life and death will not be completely controlled by you. And the Ancient One fully knows Dormammu's urine properties, will it end well? Death and death are still light, but the soul is forever imprisoned and cannot be liberated, creating fear for Dormammu forever and ever. And for students who want to ask for information, Ancient One said, you can definitely ask. I can teach you the ways of using Dormammu energy for free. It's not like I won't teach you. Hypocrite, I won't accompany you anymore, just run away. After saying that, Caecilius led his men and left the library through the portal of Kamar-Taj. The Ancient One then chased along the road, killed several magicians, and watched Caecilius open the space portal and leave. The Ancient One tearfully let him go, letting him become the grindstone for the next Sorcerer Supreme. 20 blocks away from Holy Place in New York, one of the most famous hospitals in the area. A man who walked with his own BGM was performing a very difficult surgery. With the BGM stopped, the operation was successfully completed. Moreover, after the operation was completed, he dated a beautiful girl and had a good career in love. This guy named Stephen Strange was a sure winner in life and the envy of countless people. But there are unforeseen circumstances. Stephen Strange, who was out on a date at night, was playing with his mobile phone when it rained and thundered, and was discussing with his friends, showing off. The most important thing is that he was driving a very cool car at this moment. When he was overtaking someone else's car accidentally, he was knocked down the cliff by someone else's car. After several rolls, the car was rolled over, smashed through the guardrail on the roadside, and then rolled directly down the mountain. Fortunately, this car is still strong, so the person is not dead yet. If it were an ordinary car, most people would have shed blood on the spot. Although Lan Chi loved him and did not die, he is probably more uncomfortable now than if he died. So this tells us 2 things. Don't use your cell phone while driving. My girlfriend burst into tears after driving erratically. As for why the protagonist didn't die, it's definitely due to the protagonist's halo, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the car. Even if he falls off a cliff while riding a bus, he will never die. A moment later, a team of helicopters quickly passed by, rescued Strange who was still submerged in the water, and sent him to the hospital. Ding! The rescued Stephen Strange was pushed out in the dim light of the operating room, with regret in his tired eyes. Stephen Strange slowly wakes up from a coma. Strange, are you okay? Are you okay? As a girlfriend, Christine immediately stepped forward to comfort her, but she hesitated to speak. Looking at Christine's appearance, Strange quickly noticed his own situation, especially his hands. Seeing that his hands were almost covered with braces, and there was almost no feeling in his hands, Strange's face changed drastically, and he had no time to think about whether he was still alive. Affection. My hand. What happened to my hand? What did you do to my hand? Strange, many of the nerves and tendons in your hand were severed by the glass. When it comes to the latter part, Christine can't say any more. In fact, there is no need to say any more. As a top surgeon, Strange himself understands what this means. Strange knew that this was not a doctor-patient accident, but was caused by himself. Looking at his hands, Strange kept mumbling in despair. Impossible, this is impossible. Obviously, such a blow was no better than death to a top surgeon, Mo Wang Jiao. For a while, he found it difficult to accept this fact. Strange, you have to be strong. Christine stroked Strange's face with her hand. Life is like being strong, a little heavier. Life is not about waiting for the storm to pass, but about learning to dance in the wind and rain. Strange, believe in yourself, you have to be strong. Or it may not be curable. In the ward, Christine was naturally trying to persuade and encourage him. Strange suddenly felt confident when he heard this, and Christine's encouragement really helped. Christine, you should go on a retreat to become a psychiatrist. Surgery has buried your talent, but I'm done with your bowl of chicken soup. So Strange strengthened his belief, did not give up, and took a good rest. He would definitely be able to find a way to heal his hands. Absolute. After Strange strengthened his faith, he drove the healing hands journey. It's almost the same as in the movie. He tried every means to heal his hands. But facing Strange is indeed a blow one after another. 1 month was like a year for Strange. In these days, he experienced expectations again and again, and naturally also experienced despair again and again. These experiences almost crushed him. More importantly, the crazy spending on his own treatment this month has turned him into a poor man. Yes, as a top surgeon, he is very rich. However, his life is also luxurious. It can be seen from his cool sports car that he is not a man who saves money. The manager these days almost destroyed him. On this day, Strange called again and wanted to ask an equally outstanding surgeon to help him treat him. However, doctors at this level cherish their reputation very much and will not accept treatment that they are not sure about, so there is no doubt that he was rejected. After one person lost his temper, Strange sat on the sofa and buried his head deeply in it. His whole person seemed to exude a sense of despair and decay. A car accident completely ruined his originally bright life. At this time, Strange could not help but flash the scene of the car accident in his mind, and he hated the idea of driving and playing with his mobile phone even more. This is when Christine, a good friend, knocks on Strange's door again. He doesn't want to. His friend Christine came to Strange's home with cheese and red wine. He is just a quack. There is new technology in Tokyo. They culture and collect donor stem cells, and then use 3-dimensional printing to create a chromosome skeleton. But I have to raise a sum of money, not more than 200,000. Strange said to Christine, you always spend what you earn, but now you are completely overdrawing your limit. Should you consider giving up? Christine also couldn't bear Strange's fruitless struggle. There are some things that you can't do anything about now. It's life without a career. Christine, no, I can't. I can't give up yet. Strange refused. Why can't you give up? You still have time. You can even go to retreat to learn psychology, spirituality again. Can't you become a psychiatrist and psychiatrist? Christine held down Strange and tried to force Strange again. Kira is on track. No, Christine, you don't understand. Surgeons are the highest paid people. The salary of the best psychiatrists is less than 1/10 of mine. I won't be able to repay the loan. When Strange finished speaking, the two fell into silence. Okay, come on. Finally, Christine left, and Strange picked up a document that contained the medical records of a man named Pangborn. Finally, with disbelief, I saw a man with complete bone marrow damage at both ends of 7/8 of his neck. He was paralyzed from the chest down. Hassan's hand was also paralyzed. He was actually playing basketball with a black brother and could even jump higher than a certain Shu-kun. This was unbearable. A paralyzed person can still jump higher than a certain Shu-kun. This is an insult to his academic level. Then after a friendly exchange, the doctor learned the name Kamar-Taj as he wished. It also involves a lot of soul, spirit and other issues. After hearing these remarks, the doctor thought that this guy was deceiving him. If the facts weren't in front of him, Strange would have thought that the other party was deceiving him. If the spiritual soul was so magical, then this technology would have been popularized long ago. What else is there about science? But since I really have no money, and I have sold all my property (CHBA) for treatment, I no longer have any financial basis for high consumption treatment. So I finally decided to try my luck somewhere in Kamar-Taj. After Pan Bolin told the vague location of Kamar-Taj, he glanced at Strange, who looked confused, and said tactfully, if you can also go to the address of XX 10 blocks away and try your luck. Maybe you can get it right in one step. After leaving behind an incomprehensible word, Pangborn continued to fight on the court. If going to and looking for Kamar-Taj is a test, then where can it be recognized in Su Chen? It seems that this test can also be recognized. Pan Bolin thought so, and the doctor was happy to save a plane ticket. After all, the house is gone, taken out for mortgage, and now he is bankrupt and has become a homeless man in the United States. But what he didn't know was that the United States homeless man was blessed with buffs. You must know that the three main legions in the multi-universe are composed of junior high school students, Chinese college students, and homeless people in the United States to protect the safety of the multi-universe and the Earth. Now Strange has successfully obtained such a buff, which also explains why his rest magic progresses so quickly. Many of them have the credit for this buff. Let me say, what if the Ancient One sent all the magicians in Kamar-Taj to sleep in the streets? It is not impossible that the monastery will unify the universe soon. One day later, Strange packed his bags and arrived near Holy Place in New York. If there is no result, he will take the last possessions to Kamar-Taj to find the last hope. It's okay. When I come back again, I will have a new life. Believe in yourself. Strange cheered himself up, and Strange asked doubtfully while standing at the door of the holy place. Along the way, he found that the people around him looked at him strangely, as if they were looking at some shocking monster. And these people are agents sent by S.H.I.E.L.D. to maintain the harmony around them. Originally, they wanted to stop Strange, but Su Chen's words not to stop him came to their minds. This is where we don't talk about science, but talk about metaphysics. It really looks like this. Don't judge by the appearance of the building. Go in and take a look first. Before Strange could knock on the door opened by itself, and a dog walked towards him. Woof, I am Thor. Sure enough, it doesn't look very scientific. Strange, led by Thor, came to the inside of Holy Place. Strange is quite curious about this place. He didn't expect there to be such a place in this noisy city. But it doesn't seem to have anything to do with soul or spirit, and he doesn't have the temperament of a magician at all. But I have to say that the dogs here are still very smart. After walking through several rooms, we arrived at the conference room on the top floor. You're here, let's have a cup of tea to calm down the panic. Su Chen said to the uncertain Strange. Seeing that Strange was still a little shy, Su Chen filled it up for himself without hesitation, then drank a glass and signaled that it was okay. This tea has a weak recovery effect and is good for your body. Strange also took a drink, as this a special medicine for treatment. Dr. Strange felt warm all over his body, and the feeling in his hands vaguely recovered. It seems that drinking this kind of tea for a long time can really make him recover. At that time, if you add your own exercises, it will not be impossible for your hands to fully recover. No, it's made with ordinary tea. Su Chen continued, it's just that the person who made it is special. Quote ? Special ability. Almost. Strange was stunned when he heard Su Chen's words. No wonder Pan-born said it so implicitly. It's no wonder that the special ability is special. Mutant is still a scolding existence in the eyes of ordinary people. If it's the other party's special ability, it wouldn't be surprising if it can restore him. Then can it cure me? Strange was overjoyed, as if he felt that he was not far from recovery. No, he can only delay your injury, but it won't cure it. Su Chen continued. Strange was stunned for a moment after hearing this, as if the dream building he had just built collapsed. Now Strange is still relatively arrogant. You must know that Ancient One magician had to go through many things to slowly change Strange's temper. Seeing that the junior brother in front of him was so disappointed, Su Chen couldn't help but continue to attack Strange in front of him. You must know that the entry requirements for magicians are very high. Strange's qualifications are quite high, and it seems that he can change his personality. People like Ancient One will never let Strange go, and will definitely accept him as a disciple, so that she can offload the burden of Sorcerer Supreme. Let yourself go. So Su Chen felt Strange's arrival and didn't do anything to stop him. Even in the original book, after Mordo saw that Strange was going to Kamar-Taj, he took him back directly. No matter where you were born, you have to know that Pan-born was carried up the mountain by a group of people to meet the saints. In the end, he went through many difficulties before he saw the magician. This is exactly what Strange's halo envelops. If Su Chen blasts Strange away today, causing him to no longer want to come to Kamar-Taj, tomorrow Ancient One will bring Time Gem and Su Chen to have an exchange between teachers and students. Time Gem's ability is too buggy. Su Chen said that he doesn't want to play it yet. Let's do this. I'll take you to my teacher, the Ancient One magician. She might be able to help you, Su Chen said to Strange. Although curing Strange is just a matter of one healing spell, in order not to disrupt Dr. Strange's growth path, the treatment should be slow. So Su Chen took Strange to the portal of Holy Place and went to the real Kamar-Taj. Strange wondered why such a large underground space was opened under Holy Place. But after walking for a long time, Strange felt that the space had changed, and he seemed to have arrived in another area. After all, where is such a big sun in the sky? You must know that it is morning in New York, and it is already high here. Oh, you actually use virtual imaging technology. It must have cost a lot of money to build such a large virtual screen in this underground space. Strange followed Su Chen and complained. There is no such thing, it is purely natural. Soon Su Chen arrived at the main hall and could see several old magicians he had known before. After retirement, these old men have become more and more celestial. The Ancient One magician was a little surprised to see Strange's arrival, but he still politely brought 2 cups of tea and handed them to Su Chen and Strange respectively. The Ancient One magician looked very young, so Strange only regarded her as a young apprentice here. After drinking tea, he spoke to the other fairy-like Hamel magician, obviously trying to get him. Think of it as Ancient One magician. Puff, let me laugh for a while. In response to Strange's words, the Hamel magician did not answer. He immediately stood up and left directly, obviously wanting to leave space for the 3 of them. Just when Strange felt confused, the Ancient One who looked like a servant next to him spoke and took over his words. Your teacher is so young. Su Chen did not answer. After all, a woman's age cannot be said casually, and Ancient One is no exception. This tea is so delicious. Strange continued to drink tea in an attempt to break the embarrassment. But I couldn't help but make a label in my mind, people in Kamar-Taj like to drink tea. Is there a patient named Pangborn who you cured? Strange came up and asked directly. Yes. After seeing the Ancient One's answer, Strange was overjoyed and seemed to have found hope for a cure. Point 0. How did you cure it? Strange immediately asked about the treatment method. This is probably an occupational disease as a doctor. I didn't treat him. He couldn't walk anymore. I convinced him that he could be treated. That's not psychological therapy you're talking about, is it? Strange. When you reconnect damaged nerves, are you self-healing or your body is self-healing the cells, but the cells will only recover in a special way, right? If I tell you, you can convince your body to what about various forms of restoration? Ancient One explained carefully. Strange immediately perked up when he heard this, and immediately thought of this cutting-edge technology. But he was wrong. For the forefront of science and technology, you have to go to Wakanda. Kamar-Taj only has metaphysics here. Are you talking about cell regeneration? This is a very cutting-edge medical technology, so you have to study it here, because there is no supervision by the Medical Association. I would like to ask how the research on this method is going. Strange said with excitement when talking about these. It's okay, Ancient One said awkwardly. He could understand each word of Strange's words separately, but when they were connected together, it made his head hurt. In general, if you know the result but not the process, you should be considered to understand. So if you talk about science with a theologian, you have to say that it is indeed very scientific. No, this is not cutting-edge technology, it is feudal superstition. Su Chen ignored the Ancient One's embarrassment and shattered Strange's imagination with just one sentence. Strange asked Ancient One if his hands could be cured here, and Ancient One did not deny it. After hearing her affirmative answer, Strange naturally asked with excitement and joy if they had already researched it. Higher-end medical methods and technologies. Immediately, the Ancient One told him that the method that could heal his hands was not higher medical technology, but relied on meditation and magic. As a surgeon, Strange is naturally a materialist. When it comes to the so-called magic to heal his hands, Strange is dumbfounded. He obviously doesn't believe it at all, and at the same time he feels a little desperate. Studying medicine can no longer save you, you have to study FA. Su Chen said ruthlessly. Just like in the original work, the Ancient One personally showed Strange the means of magic, pushed his soul out of his body, and then allowed him to travel through the multidimensional space. 55. After experiencing this personally, Strange finally believed in the existence of magic. However, when Strange wanted to stay and learn magic well and heal his hands, the Ancient One refused to teach him. He even kicked him out of Kamar-Taj. When he was driven out of the gate, he realized that this was nowhere underground. This was clearly another country. Looking at the makeup, I might still be in India, especially those goddesses and so on. So this is space technology. No, is it space magic? Hey, open the door quickly. I have to go back. I haven't applied for a visa yet. It's a shady business here. Su Chen accidentally hacked Strange. Ancient One magician, you just threw him out like this. What if he escapes? No, I see the desire for knowledge in his eyes. After Ancient One said this, he turned his attention to Su Chen. You really protected New York. You accidentally bombed another place. Hearing Ancient One's words, Su Chen felt a little bitter. Ancient One magician, this is not all my fault. You must know that if I don't use all my strength, I have no way to guarantee that I can solve the problem. If you are willing to lend me the time gem, I will not be so stubborn, and I will also work with these. Show me some magic. Don't you have to? Be careful of getting into trouble. The Ancient One ignored it. Time gem was not reserved for Su Chen. It is true that it is borrowed but not returned. Ancient One is too lazy to talk about Su Chen. He can't control Su Chen's current strength. When Strange grows up, she can go on vacation. But Strange's temperament still needs to be polished. As for her kicking Strange out, this is just to polish Strange's character. Otherwise, if the Ancient One was really unwilling to accept Strange here, why would he have made such a big show of letting him see the power of magic with his own eyes before? You can completely say that you are a magic stick, and the other party will not believe you if you say so. But after others have seen the power of magic, what if Strange is driven away when he is willing to stay? This is completely inconsistent, and the purpose is to make him calm down and not be too impatient. The Ancient One, after all, is a person who has lived for hundreds of years, so she naturally knows a lot about the ways of the world. She knows very well that the easier it is to obtain something, the less she will cherish it, even if it is magic. Therefore, even though he wanted to take Strange in, Ancient One still kicked him out, firstly to temper his temperament, and secondly, to let him cherish this hard-won opportunity. Strange, just like in the original novel, stayed at the door and refused to leave, staying there for several days. Since I didn't buy a plane ticket, I've been relatively comfortable these past few days. At least I'm not hungry. But after these few days of waiting, he finally understood that this was a test for himself, so he waited patiently. It has become a little calmer. One day, Strange was shivering in the cold while leaning against the door, wrapped in cheap cloth and shivering in the cold wind. After all, the coat and other things on his body were taken off and placed in the main hall, which was really cold. The door opened and Strange, who was leaning against the door, fell directly into Kamar-Taj. Next Strange was brought into the hall again. Congratulations, the Ancient One magician has decided to accept you as a magician apprentice. And you are still a closed disciple. Su Chen also participated in this apprenticeship ceremony, so congratulations to him. Although the Ancient One faction will accept magician apprentices, the Ancient One has not had any apprentices for a long time. The apprenticeship process of Holy Place magician is generally very simple. As long as the master agrees, the apprentice can be accepted as an apprentice. But basically all the magicians in Kamar-Taj have received guidance from the Ancient One magician, and basically treat it as a teacher. Disciple, I know, what does the Ancient One magician mean by closed disciple? Strange asked Su Chen in a low voice. Seeing this expression of seeking knowledge, Su Chen couldn't refuse, and as a white man, it was understandable that he didn't know the meaning of closed disciples. But Su Chen couldn't help but wanted to die, and explained in a weird way. The disciple who closes the door means that the master is getting old and his memory has deteriorated. When he forgets to close the door after going to bed at night, you can help him close the door. There is also the disciple who turns off the lights and the gas. The disciple who closes the door has the final say. She is the highest ranking among the disciples. All she needs to do is go for a walk outside her residence at night after the master goes to bed and close the circle. Su Chen explained carefully. After listening to Su Chen's words, Strange suddenly realized, what a closed disciple, isn't he just doing odd jobs? The status is definitely the lowest, but in order to do less work in the future. Strange immediately thought of a way. Oh, that's it. This is Alzheimer's disease, commonly known as Alzheimer's disease. I didn't expect that someone who looks so young would be suffering from this disease. This is usually only the elderly who get this disease. It doesn't look like they have it yet. When it gets to the advanced stage, I can prescribe some medicine for her and put it in her food later, and it will take effect after a few courses of treatment, so she won't forget to close the door. Dr. Strange followed Su Chen in a low voice, but there was no one present who was not a powerful magician. This small voice means it is not quiet, everyone heard it. PFF, Strange, you are really amazing. The Ancient One endured his anger, accepted the apprentice, and left the dojo. If he stayed any longer, the Ancient One might not be able to help but kill the new apprentice. Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe.